this afternoon with high fire danger. Winds shifting from the south to the north 5 to 10 miles an hour. Partly cloudy skies stick with us tonight, a low of 53. Decent viewing conditions for the comet overnight. I'm meteorologist Caitlin Harvey with KATV Newswatch 7.
1620, The Zone. Traffic.
From the Pyramid Roofing Time-Saving Traffic Center. Happy Feel Good Friday. It's a quiet Friday morning in the Omaha Metro. There's no accidents or delays to report. All the lanes are open on westbound from 156 to 168th. As I said before, everything else is steady. Your morning traffic commute should be fine as of right now, but if that changes, I'll keep you updated throughout the rest of the morning. Just be sure to buckle up and drive safe out there. I'm Joey Colbert.
This time-saving traffic is brought to you by Pyramid Contractors.
If you've seen the white trucks with Rufus, the spotted dog, then you know about Pyramid Contractors. Replace your siding, windows, roof, or gutters. Call Pyramid Contractors at 402-502-9300 or visit PyramidRoof.com. Never settle for less.
Host is roasting every morning. Host is roasting every day.
Host Coffee stands as the vibrant heart of every break room, offering the unique fusion of traditional quality and modern flair. We're not just your coffee provider, we're the center of memorable workplace moments. Call Host Coffee today.
Proudly serving Nebraska since 1972. Host Coffee is always roasting something good for you.
Morning. I'm starting my health journey with my new blender. I got 2% cash back on it with the new Cash Rewards Plus card from Navy Federal Credit Union. I get unlimited 2% cash back on these carrots, apples, bananas.
It's 6 in the morning.
Oh, I also got 2% back on these smoothie glasses.
I'm going back to bed.
Oh yeah, I got 2% back on the mattress. Sleep tight.
You can earn unlimited 2% cash back on all purchases with the new Cash Rewards Plus card. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission. Navy Federal is insured by NCUA.
I'm Rhett Lewis with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. Week 6 kicked off in Seattle where the Niners dominated the Seahawks 36-24. Brock Purdy threw for 3 touchdowns, 2 of them to George Kittle. Deebo Samuel caught a 76-yard touchdown to become the first wide receiver in NFL history with 20 TD receptions and 20 TD runs. San Francisco now 3-3. Geno Smith threw 2 interceptions as the Seahawks fall to 3-3. In other news, Jets interim head coach Jeff Ulbrich is making changes to the offense before his first game. Ulbrich told reporters that Todd Downing will take over play calling duties for the Jets offense, while Nathaniel Hackett will remain on the staff. Downing, a former offensive coordinator with the Titans, is the Jets passing game coordinator. Quarterback Aaron Rodgers called Downing a phenomenal quarterback coach. New York fired head coach Robert Saleh on Tuesday following a 2-3 start to the season. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
All right, when it comes to getting life insurance for your family, a lot of excuses can get in the way. But ask yourself this: if something were to happen to me, who would pay the mortgage, the kids' education, and the other bills? Then forget the excuses and check out Ethos Life, the online, easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes. Ethos has rates that you can afford, like a $500,000 policy for a 40-year-old male starting at $1 a day or $30 a month with a few health questions and no medical exam. Get your free quote right now at checkethos.com. That's checkethos.com. Not available in all states. Rates do vary.
Hey, John, why so glum?
I just got let go. The company's downsizing. This is the 3rd time in the last 2 years. I'm done with this.
Have you thought about My Computer Career? I've heard they can train you for a career in IT in just a few months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI. And you don't need prior training or experience. Now that's a recession-resistant career.
Wow, thanks. I'll check them out.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students, including...
I'm at the movies, asking people if they'll switch seats with me for $574.
Here, take mine.
So what about $574 if you switch your home insurance to Allstate?
Too much work.
Not if you call them. They handle the switching.
Now, that's a plot twist.
Shh. Check Allstate first, and you could save hundreds on quality home insurance today. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Not available in every state. Based on the national average annual savings for new home insurance customers surveyed in 2023 who switched to Allstate and reported savings. Savings vary.
Don't miss this week's Zone Deal.
This week's deal is from Scary Acres, voted the #1 best haunt in Omaha by Best of Omaha since 2019 and #1 best haunt in Omaha by the Omaha Choice Awards. This deal includes 2 super combo passes to get you into all 3 attractions for just $30. Scary Acres, 177 42nd and Giles. Pay just $30 for 2 super combo passes this Friday at 9 a.m.
Zone deals go fast. 9 a.m. Friday. 1620thezone.com. 1620 The Zone.
The 1-0, and he swings and drives one high and deep left field. Home run, Jose Ramirez. There it is. A star being a star, and the Guardians grab the lead. 2-1 Cleveland. The set, the 2-2 delivery. Swung on, hit a ton, deep left, green, back, track, wall, gone! David Fry! Off the bench, a 2-strike, 2-out, 2-run home run. And Cleveland's back on top for the third time tonight, 4-3.
Weaver deals, and Pasquantino strikes out on 3 pitches. Now the great veteran Sal Perez. Weaver makes quick work of Pasquantino and then Perez, striking them both out. And the Royals' season now comes down to Yuli Gurriel. 0 for 3 tonight. In the air to center field. Judge has it lined up, and the Yankees are on their way to the LCS.
Ball game over. American League Division Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
The Royals gave them a good battle. All 4 games were close, but the Yankees now advance to the LCS.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
Yeah! Get set! Here we go!
And here we go on a Football Friday Fiesta. Good morning, everybody. How the heck are you on a Friday, the 11th of October? Trying to figure out your plans for the weekend that not involve Nebraska football in the first bye week. Just digest 5-1, let it just sink in, prepare for the next 6, and prepare for a great weekend of college football. Week number 7. It is a Football Friday Fiesta. How the heck are you? Jimmy is here. Matt is back.
Yes.
Heyo. Good morning.
Good morning to you. They want you to cook today.
People are wondering, did you make it through your first night in the Omaha, Nebraska, sober?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did. Still a nice city, isn't it?
Hey.
Nice people. Thank you.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Let's go. And now I ask, why not a little cocktail sober? Or?
Oh, wait. Did I have a drink?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a beer at dinner.
I didn't know. I don't know.
There's a difference between sober and drunk. You know, like I wasn't drunk, but I did have a beer.
Poll question?
There's a difference between did you make it through sober and did you get drunk?
You know what? And for people that kind of don't know our relationship,
sure.
You and I have known each other for a while.
For a while now.
We're not related.
Matt's not his son. No, I'm not.
You are not my son.
I'm not your nephew.
You are not my nephew.
No.
We're not roommates, anything like that.
No.
So
that'd be a sitcom.
That
would be a hell of a sitcom.
One observation of my time with you since you've stopped by in our lovely city is you do like a little cocktail with your dinner. That's the older man in you that comes out.
Yeah. I do like to have a beer.
You put on the smoking jacket and grab an old fashioned, and you start talking about the days prior to the '85 Bears.
Sit in Brandon Vogel's study. That is not what happens. Brandon's like, who the hell's this kid? I just like a little cocktail. You know,
it's okay
with the cocktail.
That's okay. You know? What's your go-to cocktail?
My go-to cocktail.
A car. Whose car we taking?
Whose car? Harbor. Go-to cocktail. It depends on like what I'm eating. If I'm eating pasta, I like some white wine. You know, that's BS. I like Miller Lite. I just have nice cold Bob Uecker Miller Lite. You know, just that.
I thought all guys from Chicago were an old style guy.
Oh
like if you're not able to get it in a place, you bring it.
I adore old style. There was a place in Lincoln it's called a Zoo Bar that had Why are you laughing at
Wasn't
that?
there?
Because you just randomly throw out the Zubar.
Shout out Zubar.
It's like, you know what? I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's legendary.
Is it?
Yeah.
I love the Zubar.
Yeah, Zubar is
only
legendary.
only place that I knew that did old style. So I went.
Oh wait,
to
I think
Zubar
I've been there
plenty.
too. Yes,
You like live music? I can see
I
that.
do.
It's one of the,
I love
It's one of the best
they would
live
have
music
live
venues in
karaoke.
Nebraska.
Like you could do karaoke and they would have a band behind you on Thursdays. It's incredible. I loved it. It was like a hangout. Like I discovered it. Like I'm the one who found out about it amongst the young friend group.
This is going to be a good day because this is the second karaoke conversation we've had.
I mean,
in the
I just-
pre-show meeting, we were talking about our favorite karaoke songs.
You didn't tell me yours.
Well, I'm
just
a
said
variety
mine.
guy. I got a lot of range.
What do you think is your best song?
Depends on time of the day.
What do you do?
This is a
Karaoke
thing.
at 2 in the afternoon?
I mean,
when you work this shift,
yeah, you hop in the shower.
Sure.
You got a little shower. Well, you got a shower beer and you got a little karaoke. Prepare yourself for a night out.
Yeah.
It depends. I've got a catalog. I don't want to narrow myself down into one karaoke song that is my go-to.
Jimbo. Jimbo.
I hate to take the.
I don't think anybody's ever called him that, but
Actually, no. A number of people.
Would you,
have
you
in
like
the
to be
past.
called Jimbo?
Jimbo Fisher kind of ruined that for me, but
yeah, that is true.
Yeah, but no, it started my 5th grade teacher. Again, I hate to sound like Sharpie, but it depends on the mood. What time is it? Who am I with? And how drunk am I?
11 p.m. You're 7 beers in. You're with your girlfriend.
Baby got back.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah, I'm just Brandy. You're a fine girl all day, every day, just every song.
We were serenaded with it.
Mm-hmm.
I know. We need this.
What a good wife
energy
she'd
needs
be.
to be up in the show. I walked in. It was a bunch of curmudgeons in here who just,
Wait a minute.
heads
You and I walked in together.
Heads down, eyes closed.
I was even smiling. How often does that happen?
We're gonna jack you up on a football Friday
Yeah.
fiesta.
I can't wait. This is going to be quite the football Friday because quite the football slate we have on Saturday. I mean, there are people who are not going to weddings tomorrow because of the slate. There are people who are not going to parties, who are missing their own anniversaries.
Why
in order
can't
to
you?
watch
Why
this
can't you
slate.
do all of it?
Yeah,
because the power of the phone.
This is the classic. Is a fall wedding a bad idea or a good idea thing?
This weekend, it's okay.
Yeah.
To bring out the phone or to have a fall wedding?
To have a fall wedding.
No.
At the pumpkin patch.
You got the weekend off. You're planning. I prefer to be a spring wedding guy.
See, that's when I am. When I get married. If I get married at this point.
You'll get
at this
married.
rate.
You're a good-looking guy.
I
Got a
hope.
great personality.
I
You
hope.
got an old soul and a young soul. Somewhere in the middle, you'll find a cougar.
Mm-hmm.
I'll find someone who is like 10 years older than I am to marry. That's fine.
Yeah.
Go watch The Graduate this afternoon.
It is a great slate of college
a great
football
slate.
that we will talk about. There are 3 really good windows. There's a lot on the line. Nebraska not playing, so we still have stuff to talk about. We're going to play California's favorite game. Is it real or fake? Surrounding Nebraska football.
That's a good one.
Also, I probably should start this way. Here on Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Matt McMaster, by the way, is the voice that you hear.
Ayo.
Jimmy is here as well. Okay, so I was wrong. I can admit when I'm wrong.
Time to eat the crow. It's okay.
But who do I apologize to? Do I apologize to the Yankee fan or do I apologize for the Royals fan?
Just Happer.
For people that don't know,
Oh, that's a great,
after the
yeah.
Jazz Chisholm lucky comment, and man, he might go up the list of enemies in Kansas City sports. He said the Royals got lucky. And I said, don't touch the money. You haven't been a Yankee long enough. I don't think the Yankees, you fear the Yankees. So I made a proclamation that this was not going back to Yankee Stadium. Now, I want to give myself some credit. I was right there. The series between the Royals and the Yankees is not going back to Yankee Stadium.
That is true.
This is true.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But the Yankees will get to go back to Yankee Stadium. They're just not going to bring the Royals with them. So who do I apologize to more, the Yankee fan or the Royal fan?
Look, I think it's the Royal fan for sure
Mhm.
because
Shout out
we
Ray
are
and Gardner.
talking about a long-suffering fan base. We're talking about a fan base who is in the cellar in terms of team willingness to pay players, to acquire players, to keep players. I guess Bobby Wood Jr. is now that
Made a huge investment.
Made
Yep,
a huge
yep,
investment
yep.
in that, so kudos to them. But we're talking about a fan base who does not get to see success as much as one fan base would, and a very passionate fan base who does not get to see their team succeed. So I know for a fact, and coming from a fan base, the Cubs, who do spend a lot of money, but don't see as much success. When you made that proclamation, and I called it stupid yesterday, I as a Royals
Sometimes
fan,
you swing and miss.
I as a Royals fan, non-Royals fan, screamed through my phone, "Shut up! What are you talking? Don't jinx us! What are you talking? We don't get this a lot. Just be quiet. No one knows. No one needs to know."
Wow, he really is
that
a
we're not
22-year-old
going back.
version of me.
Don't tell him.
Can I? So here's my dilemma.
You messed up.
Yeah,
you made a bad call.
I did. I admit I was wrong.
And I think that people should be mad at you, and you should face the consequences.
What would be the consequences?
I feel like every Royals fan, when they see you, should be like, "Hey, nice mess up, man." Or they should be like, "Hey, Gary, what the heck, man?"
I think this becomes a segment on the show. Gary's predictions sure to go wrong.
I feel like we could do that at the end of every year. We just grab every bold prediction. Hey, Jim, grab that.
We'll get a sponsor.
Yes. And then at the end of the year, we just mash them all together.
So
that could probably be its own 4-hour show.
Let me defend my bad proclamation.
Go ahead.
There's a lot of people. There's mayors. There's politicians make bad proclamations. They don't ever get called on the carpet. There's no accountability for Aaron Rodgers, so I'm going to give you accountability. This is where it hurts for the Royals. One, I thought they would go home. The splits at home are better. I thought they would find some offense.
Yeah.
I didn't want to fully admit that the offense for the Royals had been brutal in the month of September, one of the worst in baseball. But they went home and only scored 3 runs. Their pitching did enough that they should have been able to squeak at least one game out.
More than enough.
The series kind of ended 2 nights ago.
That's what I thought.
When they got back into the game, they tied it at 2, and Stanton hits the home run. But they had opportunities. And then last night, they were kind of going uphill the entire game. And here's one thing I did not expect. So the Royals come home and they score 3 runs in 2 games. That's not going to get it done.
No.
The Yankees were just okay.
Yeah.
That's what, if I'm a Royal fan, and I don't want to be, and I'm a Cub fan, but I do follow the Royals.
You care about them. You care about
I do. That's a good way to describe it.
You care about them.
Yeah.
You want to,
I care about people and teams that are close to me.
Yeah.
And they're within the 500
They're not
mile
your
radius.
best friend, but you want to see him succeed.
That's a good way to describe my
There you go.
relationship with the Royals. But here's my relationship with the Royals is it's tough to be greedy because they went from 56 to 86 wins, got into the postseason, won a series, got home games back at the K. We're playing the Yankees, who, again, were just okay.
Sure.
And they won in 4. So it's the balance of, man, when I sit back and look, this was a great year for the Royals. Didn't expect it. The future is bright. And then I think this is a big lost opportunity. Now, I did not expect Garrett Cole to pitch like an ace, and he did last night.
Mm-hmm.
But I also did not expect the wind all of a sudden to play havoc with a Kyle Isbell fly ball that would have been out at Yankee Stadium. So I'm being fair to myself, a little balance.
I don't think you deserve any sort of fairness, anything like that.
But
and now you're playing this poppycock.
Forgive me for the sins I have committed.
You're playing this game now where it's okay. I proclaimed that this was over and that this team was going to win, but actually, guys, you know what? And I knew that they were a bad hitting team in September, but I didn't want to say anything about it. And really, when we look at it, they weren't that good, and they had a lot of great success from year to year. And if we're being honest, probably good for the league just because they weren't going to win the World Series or anything like that. That's what you just played. You just played that
That's
card.
a good summation of what I said. Thank you.
You messed up. You said it was over. It wasn't. It wasn't even close to over. And now you got egg on your face. And I hope that when we do crossover, Happer will have, make sure to break another egg on your face. And when you see more Kansas City Royals fans, they'll give you a little crap. You don't deserve as much as maybe I'm portraying right now. I will say this about the game specifically last night.
Yeah.
That first inning, and it's one inning, and it's the first inning. And as that, the first inning never decides any sort of games, right? But when they scored that first run and 3 pitches in, the Yankees go up 1-0 after a double followed up by a single. That was the tone set that they needed. That was a massive, massive swing in that game. And you're thinking, Matt, you're calling it a swing in the game in the first inning, 3 pitches in, but it was because Kansas City fans, rightfully so, walked into that stadium nervous. walked into
Yeah.
that stadium
that's
knowing
absolutely fair.
knowing they didn't have the momentum. They walked into that stadium knowing it was going to be an uphill battle, and the Yankees jump on them right away, couple pitches in, and they say, oh yeah, we know we got the momentum, and now we're going to take a 1-0 lead, and now you feel like coming into the stadium, you felt like you're going to have an uphill battle. We're literally making an uphill battle now, because before you even step into the batter's box, you're down 1. I don't think it's stated enough how important that first inning was and how crucial it was for them to jump on the Royals in the beginning of that game.
That's a great point, because I look at the night before with the Dodgers and the Padres.
Oh, yeah.
Now, there's a different situation. The Dodgers are down 2-1, but Mookie Betts hits another home run in the first inning, and they don't let up.
No. And that stadium, right, that, the San Diego stadium, it just felt...
The electric factory no longer had electricity.
No. And at that point, it's so much harder to try and create that electricity when you don't have it to when it's there, and then it's kind of feeding you, And I think that people who have been fans of teams who've gone on massive runs in the playoffs know that there are just moments where you're sitting in a stadium and you're sitting in playoff baseball and that place is rocking and your best player's up to bat. And it's like you almost know they're going to get a hit. You almost know they're going to get a double. I always talk about Game 5, 2016 World Series. Cubs were playing. They had just scored a run. Chris Bryant was up to bat. And it's like that whole place was rocking. You knew he was going.
Do you know that's the only baseball game I've ever stood for the entire game? It's the only World Series game I went to during the Cubs. And
where were you sitting?
I was in the 20 rows up from the first base coaching box.
I was 40 rows up from behind home plate.
How come we didn't meet up?
I don't know.
And have an old style.
I don't think I was a thought in your mind. I've never even heard of you.
Do you think that we passed while we were in the concourse? And people, it was at Attention Convention, because you're like, oh, I cannot see the then Indians, now Guardians, Cleveland baseball team celebrate on my field.
I told
Do you think we passed? Do you think like we high-fived each other? No. A young Matt
how old
walking
were you,
by
Matt?
at 14 years old was like, hey,
14.
Go Cubs.
Oh, I do that.
But I stood, our section basically stood for the entire game. And I didn't even think twice the amount of money I paid for the ticket. I'm like, I don't even get to enjoy that seat. I get to enjoy the piece of concrete that I've been standing on. But I would have been, that was a pacing game. But I would have been pacing all over the place.
You remember that at bat though, after Rizzo hit a homer and then Bryant was up to bat and then he hits a double after. Like everyone, or maybe it was the opposite. Bryant hit a home run and then Rizzo went up to bat, hit the double. Regardless, that inning, everyone knew like they were going to score again that inning because of how electric it was. Yankees jumping on them in the first inning and not allowing that electricity to even build was a massive part of that game. Quickly, Royals good enough to win the series. Superstars didn't play like superstars.
No. Their whole offense took a hit when Vinny got injured.
Yeah.
But last night, it took until late in the game for those two to get going. Again, scored 3 runs. That's not enough. But again, the Yankees were just okay. That's the frustrating part if you're the Royals, is the Yankees were just,
Are you taking the winner of Cleveland and Detroit over New York?
No. Now, here's the part of, you're going to love this.
Oh, I'll love it.
So I actually have money on the Yankees to win the World Series. So here, I had to balance my
You were hedging.
I had to balance my Costanza wallet and my heart and the smartness that I have.
That's a load of crap. Because you were hedging.
Well,
you were hedging there, and no one knew you were hedging.
I felt like I could lose $20 and I'd be okay.
Because no. Because now, if the Yankees end up winning the World Series, you can now stand on your high horse and be like, "Well, I knew all along."
I promise you that I will not do that.
I don't take that promise with any grain of salt whatsoever.
How do we feel about Bobby Witt Jr.? So the Yankees celebrate on the field, and it's too bad in the current day of baseball that the Yankees and the Royals won't see each other more often. Now, next year, I believe the Yankees will be at the K, because this little rivalry got reignited. I mean, there was some chippiness the entire series, and Jazz Chisholm is being booed, and he loves it. And last night with Garcia and Volpe and Chisholm, that kind of added to it. So it's too bad that this is not ignited, and they don't even see each other in spring training. One's in Arizona, and the other's in Florida. But the Royals will be back, and they will be back with Bobby Witt Jr. But how did we feel last night? So at the end of the game, Yankees celebrate on the field, and I mean, that's a dagger when an opposing team is celebrating on your field and they're popping bottles in the visiting clubhouse. I mean, I don't want, I'm never going to be a club owner. I don't want people coming to my house and popping bottles and like dancing on my grave.
They stain it.
I prefer that because I like a clean house, and that stuff's tough to get out. So the Yankees celebrate last night, and they're out there and they take a picture. And from what I understand, the Yankees lingered on the field for a while.
Rightfully so.
Good. You know what? They finally acted like the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Yankees can't be nice people.
No.
Okay? They have to be douche canoers. They have to do that, and everybody has to hate them. That's just part of being a Yankee. There are some guys on the Yankees I like, but no, you wear the pinstripes, I hate you. But so Bobby Witt Jr. is hanging on the railing of the dugout watching that. Remember Stephon Diggs when the Chiefs went to the Super Bowl and the Bills? He stood on the field and watched them celebrate. Yeah. And in the back of his head, Matt, he said, God, wouldn't it be great to be a Chief? And that's a picture that was shared. And then, the Bills get beat in the playoffs
over and over and over.
So
and now he's in Houston, Stephon Diggs,
and he'll be back in late January at Arrowhead to do the same thing. So Bobby Witt Jr. was hanging on the railing watching the Yankees celebrate, and he was on the railing where everybody could see him. So there's pictures that are being shared. And trust me, that guy is Mr. Royal, and he'll have a better career than George Brett. And
wow.
And he just needs a World Series because it's a different era.
Sure.
I mean, he probably in 40 years not going to do a whole half-inning interview with Costas and J.P. Morosi. But, I mean, he did that. Stephon Diggs, watch the Yankees. Hey, I'll be back.
Do you like that? Do you like that?
It's not a very.
I don't know. I gotta be careful because I crush Diggs.
It's very LeBron of Bobby Witt Jr. Very. Let me stand out here. Where's the camera?
No.
Camera?
I don't think.
Where's the angle?
I don't think
okay.
A guy that plays for a Midwestern team. You just compared him to LeBron.
It was LeBron-esque looking for the cameras and putting yourself in the best angle to get pictured because you could probably.
You think LeBron does that?
Without a doubt. He's probably the best. If there's one thing he's the greatest of all time at, and it's getting really good pictures and really good angles and videos.
I like that low-key shade.
No, I like LeBron. That's a whole
He's
other
not the GOAT
argument or whatever. It's overdone. There's been a lot of other athletes who've done the whole let me look at the other team celebrating for some sort of inspiration or whatever. At this point, I thought it was cool when Diggs did it. It's become real corny for me. It's not a point of dislike if someone does it. I'm not out on Bobby Witt Jr. because he was looking at the other team celebrating.
You are selling your merchandise right now.
No, yeah, I'm not burning anything in a fire pit or to that regard, but
he's helped bring baseball back. Baseball's back in Kansas City. The K
couldn't
is
agree
back.
more.
And
now,
I think that they got to make some moves in the offseason to fix their outfield and supplement the roster a little bit. But this year has brought baseball back at the K and in Kansas City.
I think that's the one thing, though, Gary, that when you say that, they got to make some moves to supplement their roster.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very market 15 to number one answer, right? What if you're a Royals fan, you're kind of sitting there being like, well, what are the moves that aren't already giving up what we have to get better? Like, no, I mean,
one of the first moves I would do, they have to fix their outfield situation.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is that they don't have
Teoscar Hernandez would be two guys.
I should have just went straight to the point. They're a small market team. They don't spend a lot of money. They're not necessarily going to go out and put $15 million, $18 million into an outfielder.
They did this year. Their payroll was a lot higher than normal, and with a new owner, now they see you have a centerpiece in Bobby Witt Jr. and you have some young players. I mean, they're not going to be able to they don't have bangers in the system that they're just bringing up prospect after prospect, but they have an owner that I think is a owner that relates to the fans. So they want to win. He also wants a new stadium. He wants to move downtown. I can't imagine after the last two nights trying to get out of a downtown ballpark in Kansas City. It's already a little bit tricky and takes a while to get out of the K. But man, can you imagine downtown Kansas City trying to get out of downtown after two sold out crowds?
Sounds like hell.
Yeah.
I love that point from you that maybe they do invest a little bit more because they do want that new stadium. Because, being from Chicago, Jerry Reinsdorf, before the season began, wanted a new stadium, was trying to get a new stadium, and then he loses 121 games. And now the sentiment is...
Should go well.
Heck no. Absolutely not. You can't lose 121 games and now you're going to have taxpayer dollars go into making a new stadium for you. You must be out of your mind. So for Kansas City, yeah, I think that's a great point from you and a phenomenal observation that if they do want to get a new stadium, the easiest way to do that is to win games, to have more playoff games, is to have more revenue.
If you're asking people to invest in you, you got to invest in that product.
I totally agree.
It's business 101.
But all I say, I just kind of bring up that point to circle back to this, right? They were up, it was 1-1. They had 2 games at home. They had a golden opportunity
they failed
to continue this incredible streak that they're going on, to really cash in on the chips, right, of the momentum that they've been building over the last couple of months, because frankly, you never know with franchises like that, how many more opportunities are they going to get? And then, just Gary Sharp goes on the air and says it's over and completely jinxes it, and now they're out of the playoffs.
Did I really have that much power? I think you're giving me way too much power here.
I think, though, once again, the sentiment is great for them, great season. Yes, they need to do supplemental stuff, but man, you're feeling like we were right there if you're Kansas, if you're Royals fans. And it's a little bit different because if the Yankees had lost in this series, they could easily say, well, look, we'll be back next year. We have the roster, we have the horses, we have the money, we have the ownership to come back and have another opportunity. This is a franchise where you don't know that. And 86 wins is a good season, but 86 wins can easily be a flash in the pan.
Well, in the American League Central, the Guardians aren't going to go anywhere. The Tigers look like they might be on the upswing, and they might spend money because they have a centerpiece in Skubal. And I don't think the Twins are going to go anywhere. So the division, you're going to have to match 86 wins again next year.
And it's safe to
the Red Sox probably will be better. The Rays are going to be back to being the Rays. So it may be construct a roster where you figure out how do we get to 88 wins.
And you
win the division or, of course, a wild card.
You got to think logically that the White Sox aren't going to be as bad as they were last year. And I don't know. I think
they might win 60.
At one point in the year, the Royals were up 12 games, or were 12 games over 500, and they were 12-2 or 10-2 against the White Sox. And so basically they were a 500 team.
Everybody in that division benefited
majorly from playing against the worst team in American sports. So you have to think that, and this is a legitimate factor. Like they're going to have to
don't apologize for playing bad teams and you win.
They are going to have to make a roster.
That's what Class A football is in this state.
Absolutely. They're going to have to make a roster that this year would have won 92 games in order to win 88 games next year, because of the fact that the competition is still going to be pretty high in their division.
All right, get ready, everybody. We are 4 wins away from the Yankees and the Mets being in the World Series.
The Mets.
Meet the Mets, greet the Mets.
I would love that. Is that what do you think that's what America's rooting for?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But
as much as we love the year 2000.
Baseball fans just want a relevant World Series. We don't want the Rangers and the Diamondbacks again.
No.
We would like to be paying attention to baseball in a couple of weeks. And we'll find out. Dodgers and Padres play tonight, Game 5 at Chavez Ravine. And then tomorrow, because the Guardians stayed alive, they come home to face Skubal in Game 5. So Detroit, Cleveland, Yankees, Padres, Dodgers, Mets.
I think it is a foregone conclusion that the best results of these games could get the highest quality CS, could get the highest quality World Series, is Dodgers win tonight, Tigers win 2 nights from now. Or tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think it is. If it's a Tigers, Yankees, Dodgers, Mets, I think those are great storylines. Those CSs in their own right are great storylines.
Fox
and then
is thrilled to have the NL this year.
Whoever wins what creates a really interesting World Series. Whether it be LA versus New York, LA versus Detroit, New York, New York, New York.
You ever
Detroit.
seen For the Love of the Game?
No.
You should. Vince Scully should have won an Oscar.
Tigers,
for it.
Yankees. Billy Chappell could be starting instead of Skubal. Game 1 for the Tigers.
I'm not following. I'm young.
Google it.
Will do.
That is Matt McMaster. He's in for Nick. You've heard from Jimmy. Here's the lineup brought to you by the Rooferys of John Higgins Workout. It is a Football Friday Fiesta. Brett Ciancia from Pick 6 Previews will join us at 7:30. It is a full slate. You are going to be full from the first window to the middle window to the late window. The late games are kind of interesting. You wake up and you go, man, how is Iowa State unbeaten? They're in Morgantown for a night game.
Oh,
that's going to be awesome.
My liver just started hurting.
Plus, you got K-State, Colorado. Is that the biggest game that Deion Sanders has coached? K-State, Colorado in Boulder.
That's a great question.
Late night. The late night slate is pretty good. That'll include Boise State, Hawaii at 10 o'clock.
Heck yeah.
So Brett will be in at 7:30 from Pick Six Previews. Lee Sterling stops by from Paramount Sports. Lee has been on what they call a heater.
Heck yeah.
He will stop by at 7:50 with picks for the weekend in the NFL and college football. Jimmy, this is from last week. Mike Schaefer stops by at 9.
Oh, does it still say? Oh, yeah, that was from last week. Yeah,
and then Vers will be in at 9:20. That is the lineup brought to you by the Rooferys at John Higgins Weather Guard. You can hop into the football discussion because we'll talk about Nebraska, what's real, what's fake, our favorite California game. Also, is Nebraska relevant at 5-1, and what do they need to stay relevant? That's the key phrase. That was the goal of year 2. Stay relevant. People be happy with 3 more wins. They'd be ecstatic with 4. That's the vibe I got after our show yesterday.
I think that's
our discussion we had.
That's a really good takeaway from yesterday's show.
The 42 degree The Source hotline is wide open for you, like some of the pass protection of USC. 402-951-1620. That's a team that I've changed my opinion on about in the last 6 for Nebraska. We'll explain because they, of course, have Penn State this weekend. That is the 42 degree The Source by your mom's house hotline, 402-951-1620. The Equitable Bank inbox is open for you, like they are all the time, for great banking and where they take banking personally. Gary at 1620thezone.com. Also on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed, at Gary Sharp 1620. How did we do helping your follow numbers?
A lot. I think I went from like 516 to like 560. I mean, it was incredible.
Nice.
I want
Let's
a big
get
shout out.
you to 600 today.
Big shout out to the people who listen to the show. I really appreciate the support and following me, and hope you don't regret it.
Your Twitter handle.
I think they're going to.
Your Twitter handle?
Oh, I thought you were going to say it. Matt McMedia. MattMcMedia. I had to practice that last night before I went to bed, just to make sure I got that spelling right.
All right, let's talk some ball, y'all. We'll also dive in. There was an NFL game last night where...
do we have to?
Replay. Hey, if you're a Niner fan, you're ecstatic. You're like, we went to Seattle and we own the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll couldn't beat San Francisco, lost his job. Now, new guy in Seattle.
Bit of a
can't beat
sleeper,
San
that one.
Francisco. That game, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Al Michaels.
Well, yeah. I mean, the place we were watching it at, unfortunately, had that broadcast on and not the broadcast of the baseball game. But, I mean, at that point, you're picking between two evils, between Koskis and Michaels. So, Koskis and Michaels.
That's Matt. Jimmy's here as well. I'm Gary. You can join all of the conversation. It's going to be a good football Friday. We'll talk some Nebraska football even on the bye week. But we will dive into a juicy Week 7 slate where the Big Ten, the mob boss of the college football world, the Big Ten is on major display this weekend. We're back with more after this on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley.
Football Friday Fiesta. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Nick is out. He'll be back in on Monday. Matt McMaster has been so kind to join us.
So kind.
You had no choice.
So many sacrifices to come in here and do it. Did a lot of people favors to come and host with you. No one wanted to touch it. No one wanted no one wanted to fill in. They had it was like a poison ball. Cooper DeJean called poison. He called poison. And then I was calling poison, and then I picked up the ball. That's what happened.
Hashtag blessed.
Hashtag blessed. You're very welcome.
Here is Old Man Doug on the 42 Degree The Source hotline. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning. I think Michael Severi used to do a bit when he had his regular show, Small School Butt Whoopings. Last night, it went to another level with Millard South at halftime, 63-0 over Lincoln High. I mean, this is kind of getting sad. And I'll just say, I'm not specifically blaming, Millard South for anything, because they didn't cause this issue. These super teams really, and I'm not even saying, everyone's doing it, but something has to be done. There's a lot of parents out there that they probably won't admit it publicly, but they're just afraid to let their kids have an opportunity to fail. We don't want our kids to fail, but it used to be you went to school in your neighborhood and then you played with your friends or the hand you were dealt. And now high school's getting to be like college football, and I don't think it should be. And, with its transfer portal, and I think the NSAA is going to have to come out with something, because initially I thought, oh, come on, you can't even come out for the second half. But then, I've read some.
Yeah, so you know the story of what happened last night by now, right? So
it sounds like Lincoln High just basically had no bot. Maybe they had a bunch of injuries. I'm not sure, but
okay. Yeah, so
you tell me, Gary, because you know college.
So I'm doing the Westview Bellevue East game last night, and I'm getting texts from people that are over at Buell, and Millard South is a wagon. They're up 63-0 at halftime. They've had 4 returns for scores in the game, and then I'm thinking, okay, they're already into a running clock. That's going to be a quick second half, and I got a couple of texts that they're not even playing the second half, and I wondered what happened, and then to find out, Lincoln High, and this is a established, legendary high school, hasn't been a football-based high school, but Coach Mackey is a really good guy. They didn't have enough bodies. They weren't healthy enough, and they didn't want Millard South to hang 100 on them, so they got into a discussion about, hey, this is not going to be good. We don't have enough bodies, and we can't have guys out there playing against Millard South that have no varsity experience. This is not going to be good for anybody. So they came to an agreement. I don't know if Millard South was like, oh, but it's the smart thing to do for Lincoln High in that situation. But I didn't think we would get, we have some Class A schools that have fewer numbers that have been bludgeoned for years and years and years. Now we have another in Lincoln High for the first time. What has happened here, Doug, is that we were in the Omaha area about 20 years behind what goes on in some big cities when it comes to the discrepancy between the top and the bottom, and there's really no middle in high school football. I think it won't be limiting where you can go to school. It'll be some type of scheduling that will come into play to try and balance it out, but it's ugly this year. I've never seen as many lopsided scores as we've had in Class A this year.
But don't you agree that a lot of this has been, ultimately it goes back to the club teams and,
well, I think
8, 9, 10 years old.
There's a lot of stuff in here. It's, OPS has not recovered from 2020 not having fall athletics. The where you can go to school, your options to choose where you can go to school. And there's a long list of things, and the NSA, I think, is trying to be proactive, but it'll be more on the scheduling side than any of like, okay, maybe you add some days to transfers being eligible. I don't know what the bottom line answer is to make everybody happy, because you won't, because the cat's out of the bag. But I think the scheduling element, is there a reason why Benson is playing West Side, would it make more sense to have Elkhorn North play West Side? Something along those lines. And I'm just using those three as an example.
No, it's maybe teams can, opt into some, lower division.
So
but then those kids, then, and then those parents are like, well, I'm not going to, my alma mater, South, gets their heads kicked in at almost every night. And I feel for those kids. It's not like, I don't think none of them are trying to work hard. I think I told you I went to Bellevue East South, and Bellevue East is far from a power. And I've got parents there that tell me every time they get a really good player, they just transfer over to Bellevue West. And it just really hurt them too. And in Benson, with their coach going to Central, and I'm not blaming that coach. I'm just saying the kids, because they can do it, they do it.
Yep.
And
that's the best way to describe it.
And so, I agree. It's just, it's unhealthy. And I don't blame Lincoln High at all. And I'm not even saying, should Millard South kids just say, well, we're just going to take a knee on every play because it's lopsided? That's not right either.
They wouldn't.
Yeah, no, they wouldn't. So, it's just sad. And it's just the overall state. Last night was just
it's a very shallow year in Class A, except for the game of the year in Class A tonight over at West Side between Elkhorn South and West Side. But there's just way too many lopsided scores. Hopefully we get a start of a solution, but it will not be completely fixed. That we're too far down that road. Doug, thanks for the phone call.
Do you have multipliers in Lincoln High School football? You know what multipliers are?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That could definitely be a solution. For those listening back at home in Illinois, if you win a game, right? So like your class is determined on your population.
Illinois.
If you win a game, right, you have a playoff game. You get multipliers, and so your population gets increased, so that you have to go to a higher class. So even if you're a smaller school, but you have a ton of success, you play in higher classes. So that's always been a kind of way that they figure that out in terms of competitiveness, but also weighing the population.
Yeah, this isn't fun.
It doesn't sound like it.
Fortunate enough to do Thursday and Friday night television games, and this year we haven't had a lot of close games. And here's the balance of, this is good, and Omaha Westview. We had Westview and Bellevue East last night, and Bellevue East had a great year last year. They were 5-4. They were on the cusp of making the postseason, and they had their first really win. I think their winning season since 2009, and their head coach now in his third year, Aaron Tooman, has got things headed in the right direction. They just haven't had a very successful year. I think they're 1-6 now. But Westview, you make a case that Westview, which has only been in existence for 3 years, has their first senior class. They're the third best OPS school when it comes to football this year. They would be in the playoffs if the playoffs began today, and we have 2 more weeks to go. They won their 5th game last night, and they have their first winning season. So good for OPS, because OPS needs more than North and Central. But it is a school located in a growing area of Omaha where a lot of kids are going there now. And so if it helps one OPS school, there's somebody that's going to be in trouble. And that's been Northwest, which has really struggled to retain kids and be successful in football. Here's the thing with OPS, in my opinion, and this is at least the first step, is there is retention of head coaches. I don't think it's easy to be a head coach at an OPS school. It's just not. You're in an urban school district, so there's a lot more than having a whistle around your neck.
Big time.
You're a father to your kids at home, and you're a father to all those young men and young women that you are coaching.
Yeah.
But there hasn't been a revolving door like Coach Hansen at Bryan has now been there for a few years. Coach Patterson at Burke has been there for a couple of years. Coach Johnson at South, he's been there for a couple of years. So it's, Ben Ryan at Westview has been there for 3. It's not like a new coach every other year. And so then you're like, oh, well, I don't know who I'm going to play for. I'm going to go somewhere else, which has happened with coaching changes. But I've got ideas, and there's plenty of them. I don't know what the number one is to say, how do we balance the field? Because you just won't. You just won't. But I think they're looking at a scheduling element that would help schools that maybe if you break up Class A of the elite Class A teams and the Class A teams that just don't have enough players to compete. My worry is the numbers. Like we had a Class A team that had to at halftime say, we don't have enough kids.
And that shouldn't be
kids to
happening.
play a football game.
Yeah.
And we don't have enough kids that have varsity experience, and that would have been 100. I mean, there would have been 100 on the board, and that doesn't benefit anybody. Look what happened to Benson when they almost had 100 hung on them. So, and you know what? And the thing that and Matt, you weren't here last Friday. This is a discussion that happens almost every Friday or Saturday around here when it comes to high school football. I've never seen it like this in Class A. As shallow as it is, I mean, the top is really good, but we're 63-0, 56-14, 69-0. That doesn't benefit anybody.
The fundamental problem, and they really stop this in Illinois as well, is you can't really tell kids where they should go to school, right? Because there's that element of, well, you don't know for sure they're going to that school just to play football, right? And so you get into that whole legality thing of, well, you can't tell a kid to go to this school regardless of the fact that it is because they want to play football. They just go, well, no. I need this sort of thing in this school to get this better education. You can't just deny that from happening, right? And so it sounds like a growing problem and something that a lot of people want to solve. And I think that, the fact that you have people calling in like Doug, and we appreciate the call, like coming in and worried about it. And we see the chat over on YouTube as well. Like people care about high school football here. Nebraska high school football is a legitimate thing. They want it to be the best product it possibly can be. And also too, a competitive product benefits a lot of people because it's hard for you as a high school football player to get recruited to not just play D1 football, but to play D2 or D3 football if you're playing on a team where you're getting your butts whooped every single week, right? It's hard to scout a guy when, I'm sure there are kids on Lincoln High, right, who might want to end up playing college football where now they've lost a half because they don't have the bodies to go and play another half against Millard South. And now that's a half of film. That's a half of highlight tape. That's a half of actual playing that they've lost that I'm sure they would like to order to send out the tapes and try and get recruited and try to walk on places.
Yeah, I don't know if there'll be a fine or anything. Actually, last night we were at Bellevue East. Stu Pospisil was writing a story at Omaha Westview in their first winning season, and he was there. And so we were discussing what happened because I asked him, hey, is there a way you can find out? I can't believe that Lincoln High just got on the bus and went home, didn't come out of the locker room for halftime, and then Millard South is standing around going, something had to happen. Like, was there a major injury or something like that? And so you find out that Lincoln High just didn't have enough bodies. And they said, we can't, this is not going to be good for anybody. So they didn't play the second half last night when it was 63-0 at halftime. But Elkhorn South and Westside play tonight. Our TV game over on Cox is going to be a good one. Papillion, La Vista, and Central. Elkhorn North and Scott play at Elkhorn. So good high school football around the area. Kearney, Millard North as well. Jimmy's got an update coming up next. Brett Ciancia, Lee Sterling in the next hour. We'll get into the key phrase, is Nebraska relevant through 6 and what keeps them relevant through the last 6? And then what's real and not real that has happened through the first 6 games that we think will continue or is a farce. Farce. Plus thoughts on the juicy Week 7. And if Chip Kelly would have stayed at Oregon, what would have happened to Oregon in college football?
Wow.
Been a while, but
That's been a long time.
He's going back to Oregon. You know that popular song? Going back to Oregon.
No, don't know it.
That's where he's going this weekend as the OC for Ohio State.
Yeah.
But
what a move for Ryan Day, by the way.
To hire Chip Kelly?
Yeah. That offense, it looks diverse. I feel like in the past that Ohio State had fallen and run with the pass.
And they can run it now.
They can run it now. And I think that wide receiver you, and they got all these talented wide receivers. They really haven't had that true, incredible running back that is what made them win all of those Big Ten championships and a national championship all those years ago. They finally got it, and Chip Kelly impressively has been diversified in his run and pass game.
And Matt has a thought on Ryan Day if things don't go well for Ohio State. Think about this for a moment real quick. Nebraska could be facing the number 1 team in the country in 2 weeks.
That'd be big.
Ohio State wins at Oregon, even if Texas beats OU. Could Ohio State move to number 1? And maybe, 3rd straight week that the number 1 team in the country loses?
I didn't even know it was 2 weeks in a row.
Brett Ciancia will join us in 30 minutes. Update with Jimmy coming up next on 1620 The Zone.
Omaha hockey opens their season tonight against UMass at the 4-team Icebreaker tournament in Las Vegas. Minnesota and Air Force will play in the other opening round game. That'll be fun. The Mavs are ranked 15th in the national top 20 of 14 newcomers on its 28-player roster, coming off one of their most successful seasons, winning 23 games and earning an NCAA tournament berth last year. Mike Gabinet's squad lost 3-2 against 9th-ranked Wisconsin in an exhibition game last Saturday night at Baxter Arena. The Mavs did lead 2-0 after 2 periods, but the Badgers scored twice in the third before winning in OT. That'll be fun. High school football tonight, as you heard Gary talk about earlier. Elkhorn South at Westside. That's a big game. Grand Island, Lincoln, North Star. These are just some of the games. We're not going to list all the games. We have to stay on clock here. So if we forget, they're playing too. It's basically, if you're playing tonight, you're playing a game.
Yeah, you're right. If you didn't play last night, you're playing tonight.
Yeah, and if you're not playing either other night, you're on bye week. This is usually how it goes.
That's why we're a top-rated show, Mr. McMaster.
Kearney against Millard North, Lincoln Northeast against Omaha Buena Vista, Millard West and Omaha Northwest, North Platte and Lincoln Southeast, Omaha Bryan and Omaha Benson, Central and Papillion La Vista, and Creighton Prep and Fremont, Omaha North, South Sioux City, Papio South and Omaha South, Elkhorn, Bennington, Elkhorn North, and Scutton, Platteview at Gretna, among many other games in our great city, our great state. All the states. Nebraska volleyball plays 2 matches at home this weekend, and Big Ten play rolls along. The Cornhuskers will host number 10 Purdue tonight at 7:30 and Rutgers tomorrow at 7. The annual pink match for breast cancer awareness will be held tomorrow. That's always a very powerful evening. 6th-ranked Creighton volleyball on the road at Villanova tonight and St. John's tomorrow. There were 3 college football games last night. Big Jim Madison beats the Chanticleers, Coastal Carolina 39-7. Louisiana Tech beats Middle Tennessee 48-21. Western Kentucky beats UTEP. Remember them? 44-17. 3 games tonight. Maryland hosts Northwestern at Turtle Stadium. Utah State hosts UNLV, and Arizona State welcomes Utah for a late Big 12 game. It'll be quite warm out in the desert. There was a professional game last night that saw the 49ers beat the Seahawks 36-24. For Al Michaels' sake, I hope spreads were covered. The baseball was good again last night. The Guardians rallied to beat the Tigers 4-3 to send that series back to Cleveland for a 5th game tomorrow. Should be a festive day at the Handley household. And then Gary was right-ish, as the Yankees will go back to New York, but the Royals won't be going with them. The series didn't go back. You take your wins.
You know, you bet 500 and you can still go to Cooperstown.
That's all right. The Yankees eliminate the Royals to win that series in 4. Tonight, that 9th inning, I believe, was 9 pitches. Blink and it was over. Tonight, Dodgers-Padres, Game 5 at Dodger Stadium. Yoshinobu Yamamoto will start for the Dodgers. I would have loved to have heard Bob Shepard say that. Just roll right off the tongue. In Game 5 of the National League Division Series, pitching against a guy that the late, great Mike Shannon once referred to as the U-Man, Yu Darvish, in a matchup of fellow Japanese star Shohei Ohtani is openly clamored for. It's going to be great. Hope it's a great game. Finally, working on that Christmas list, huh? Well, let us give you an idea on what to ask Santa for this year. The Minnesota Twins announced yesterday that they are for sale, potentially ending one of the longest tenured ownerships in all of Major League Baseball. The Pohlad family, which bought the Twins for $44 million in 1984, said it has retained Allen & Company, the investment banker that commonly facilitates sales of sports franchises. Good work if you can get it. The Twins are estimated to be worth between $1.5 billion and $2 billion. Since moving to Minnesota from Washington, D.C. in 1961, the Twins have been owned only by Calvin Griffith and the Pohlets, whose patriarch Carl purchased the team and passed it to his son Jim. It is currently controlled by his grandson Joe. And of course, who could forget the late, great Thomas Hayward and his grandson Billy, who took over in 1994 and nearly led the Twins to the playoffs. That damn Ken Griffey Jr. Only the Yankees, White Sox, and Phillies have been under the same ownership for longer than the Twins. 1620, the baseball team. We can buy them.
The old man, Carl Pohlad. Got to know Jim and Joe. That's a big deal. But that nice return on investment. I think they bought the Twins for $44 million. They're going to sell it for $1.2 billion.
Wow.
Hello.
Thank you.
Pretty sure Reinsdorf bought the Sox. I sound like Tony Romo there for a second. Pretty sure Reinsdorf bought the Sox for $15 million. What a deal! Only Mahomes.
Because it always comes back to Mahomes.
It does. It always
really
goes.
does.
All roads.
You
lead
get the
back.
show,
which makes the Masters really awkward.
Heck of investment. I think there will be a lot of bidders for it. I think we were talking about it yesterday on the crossover. great sports town, Minneapolis. That's a fan base.
NBA champion Timberwolves this year.
Across all sports, I think that if you build it, they will come. If you win, the fans will show up. They will show their support. And there's not many fan bases. There are fan bases, even if you're winning, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to come to the games. Minnesota is one of them, regardless of whether or not they're winning. They'll go to Twins games. Target Field is a great field. You can make more investments around that stadium as well. So $1.5 billion, in relativeness to what other franchises are going for and what the valuations are, that's pretty cheap. It's so weird to call $1.5 billion cheap, but for just what teams go for, that's not that bad.
Circling back to Doug call before we're going to talk some music here about Millard South won last night 63-0 over Lincoln High. If you saw a tweet that Lincoln High quit, that's not the case. They did not have enough able bodies to play in the second half. It would have been 100. So they did not play the second half. In 2 weeks, this is a game that should not be played. Do not fine Omaha Benson because they're forfeiting. Omaha Benson and Millard South should not play in 2 weeks. That does not benefit anybody that Benson and Millard South would be playing 2 weeks from now. It's okay to say we're not going to play the game. Everybody just move on. Millard South goes into the postseason as the number 1 seed, and don't play that game. The game should not be played.
Is that and that's Class A as well?
Yeah. Okay. Benson has got some challenges, and they haven't won a game this year, and they've been outscored 309-15. And Millard South, you can flip on the light switch, and they're already got 4 touchdowns on the board.
Sure.
So that game should not be played. All right. Brett Ciancia will join us at the bottom of the hour. If you joined us at the beginning of the show, and the lovely Matt McMaster was back in studio,
coffeeed up
for day number 2.
Coffeed up.
We were having a discussion about music. So it got me to think, because there's the discussion about relevant. Is Nebraska relevant? That's a rule thing.
Sure.
Got to be relevant in year 2. Nebraska is relevant, but they're not really being talked about post-Illinois because they played Purdue, and then they played Rutgers, and probably the Rutgers win. Don't look at the score or the other parts of the game, but just look at you beat a team that was unbeaten.
Yes.
Probably should get a little bit more love, but I get it on the national stage. It doesn't. Well, you know what happens? The next 2 weeks, Nebraska plays in 2 games that'll be talked about a lot on the Talking Head shows that come your way on Saturday. So Nebraska is relevant. There is a level of relevancy that comes along with your record. I mean, eyeballs make you relevant. A star brings people in, then what you do on the field. But I was thinking about 5-1 and music. Do you have a song that best sums up Nebraska's 5-1 start? You being a big music guy, you got a wide range of musical choices.
I feel like I have a pretty good one.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Mr. Blue Sky.
Nice.
Okay.
Here's why. Mr. Blue Sky starts off hot, right? Sun is shining,
Yeah, the requirement here is you got to sing the song.
Yes.
402-951-1620, you got a song that best sums up Nebraska's first 6 games. But the caveat is you got to sing the song.
There ain't a cloud inside. Like that, it hits, right? Like any bar you're in, any place you're in, you hear this beat come on, you're like, good. Oh, yeah, this is a good one. This is a banger. This is like everybody's snapping, everyone's jiving. You think you're back in Ralph's, right? In Happy Days, Fonzie comes in. Everyone's kind of just shaking and jiving.
The old soul match.
Yeah,
yes.
Just kind of going back
ELO.
and forth. Richie's talking to a girl, it's a fun time.
Watch a game of the Dumont Network.
But then you can turn this down now, Jimmy, because now we get to the negative part of Mr. Blue Sky. Because Mr. Blue Sky comes out hot. And it's fun, and you're shaking, and you're jiving. But then you're like, about 3 minutes in, you're like, well, the song's still going? This is still, man,
but what about the
song.
end when they have that little breakdown?
Did they play Mr. Blue Sky twice, or is this one Mr. Blue Sky? And basically, that's all that to say. You see 5-1, and you're like, man, you're coming out. You're shaking and jiving. You're excited about Dylan Raiola looks great. Ja'Cory Barney looks great. You got all these different pieces of the defense.
Just waiting for you to start rapping now.
The defense looks awesome. But then as the song goes on and on, And you're like, maybe Mr. Blue Sky isn't like it's good and it comes out hot, but like a couple fumbles against Illinois, the bad 7 plays in overtime, the Rutgers game, the ball dinks off the head of a wide receiver. You start kind of poking holes in the song, and you start poking holes in how Nebraska football is played, and you're like, maybe they're not as hot. Maybe they're not as good as the 5-1 record. Maybe Mr. Blue Sky is really just a great 3-minute song, and then the last 2 minutes you kind of are like, okay.
Damn, that's deep.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah.
You've got me convinced that might be the song. Now, people don't want to hear me sing, so I'm going to violate the rule that I played out here. What about Unwritten?
Ooh.
Natasha Bedingfield.
Ooh. I love staring.
Go ahead. You can sing for me.
Before you open up the dirty window.
So you know what the basis of the song?
Yes.
Which was released 2 years after you were born. No. 4 years after you were born.
06? Okay.
Yes. It's how you can write and rewrite your own destiny.
Yes.
And then what lies ahead is still unwritten. Taking time to live life to the fullest.
Sure.
Feeling the rain on your skin.
Yes.
Embracing what lies ahead.
Yes.
And living life on your own terms. That would be the song I'd use for the 5-1 halfway point of the season.
I think that is phenomenal because.
Thank you.
Was this unwritten?
Because
yes. Would you like to sing it?
Oh, I remember the song. My first radio job, I had to play said song.
Oh, it was a banger.
It is a banger. It still is a banger. It's kind of resurfaced.
Well, you know why it was a banger?
Feel the rain on your lips.
The Hills.
Yes, time and place. Oh,
oof. I'm making a list for you.
Time and place.
No, I will. I'll tell you exactly why. I'll tell you exactly why that was a great pick by you. They really can write their own destiny. They have a schedule in which they can go 5-1 once again. And if they once again, your thing just went off. You just clicked something on the StreamYard. If they go 5-1 once again, they are in the playoffs. They can write their own destiny. They can go in. No, they can go to the college football playoffs. They can reach above what they're supposed to reach above. They are the writers of their own destiny at this point because.
Did you say college football playoff?
Yeah. 10-2? 10-2 with losses against a ranked Illinois and Ohio State can get you into the college football
Absolutely.
playoff.
Absolutely.
It would be back. They can write that destiny. Okay. So I like that song from you.
Here is Dan. Dan, good morning. Welcome to Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Matt in for Nick. Hello.
Hey, I had a great song that sums up the Huskers right now, and also a shout out to Nick Handley, Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, Working Man, Nowhere to Go.
That's he likes that song. I like that. That's a good one, Dan. Dan, would you like to sing that song?
Yes, Dan. Dan, it's not would you like to. Dan, sing the song.
Sing. Sitting alone in the dark. Something like that.
That's good enough, bud.
Hey,
that's perfect.
Dave, Dan, thank you. We put you on the spot, and he
delivered. Everybody
this could
be more
become
like
its
Dan.
own thing.
Do we have anybody in the building that on cue we could just give them a song and they'll sing?
Yes.
We had Nikki, but Nikki would have been that person for us.
Do you think we could call her at home?
We probably could. She might be awake.
She's being mom.
Yeah. Yeah, she has to be awake.
Used to be a morning co-host over on Sweet 98.
Cool.
But now she's being mom.
Yeah.
Oh.
But she is very talented. She's like a karaoke king or queen. Queen in this case.
Queen.
Yes.
I would love to be. I like some of these.
Do we have anybody, Jimmy? Anybody in the building that we just like Joey? Could we get Joey in here? Just point to Joey and go, "Hey, give me some Unwritten," and he just bam is into it.
It's slim pickings at this time of the day.
Dan calls in. He's like, "Bam."
We need more. Look, we need more people. Be like Dan.
On the stream, we
like
have
Dan.
some bangers that have been suggested.
Yeah, go
We've
ahead and
only
read those.
just
Now,
begun.
hold on. We're going to play a little karaoke listener, the song that sums up Nebraska's football season. So this is how it's going to work, Matt. Jimmy's going to read the stream.
Okay.
And then you give us a little bit of
you can do this.
Give us a little bit of the song. All right.
I don't know if I know a lot of these.
And that's okay. You can say that, but you might know some of them, being an old soul. I mean, you were alive when this one came out. We've only just begun by the Carpenters.
Oh, I'd love to hear this.
You got to give me.
I would love to hear this attempt.
If you give, wait, we've only just give me like what's a line in there, and maybe I can.
We've only just begun.
How does it go? Can you put the song? Can you play the instrumental here?
I'm looking.
I don't know if we have that song. Well, maybe the Keg. Oh, there we go. All right, you ready?
Okay.
Okay. Here you go. Well, yeah, we do.
Oh,
Yeah, we
no.
do. Yeah, we do. Here we go. I'm gonna touch your button. Hold on. This
You gotta
thing.
Get out of that.
All right.
What is going on?
Just hey, you handle the button. Okay.
There you go.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Yes.
What? Okay, I'm trying to figure out. Am I in C here? Am I in G?
You're at KOZN.
We've only just begun to live. There you go.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, we probably need to stop that song because that's one of those
A
songs that'll be in your head.
kiss for luck. There you go.
Maybe this wasn't a good idea.
It was a terrible idea.
You know what?
From the beginning.
All right.
I don't know why this is happening.
I'll just read the names of the other songs they suggest. New Sensation by In Excess. You know that one.
I do know that one.
You know this one.
song.
Somebody's
Great
Watching Me by Rockwell. And some might say about this.
That's a great one. Who said somebody's watching me?
Our friend Pyro on the
That's
stream.
a great
Morning,
one, Pyro.
Fongway says,
feel
and it
like-
might be talking about this segment. It's a mistake by Men at Work.
Yeah.
I think we've, you know what? America gone wrong. We don't have more men at work.
Some of our other ones here.
That was not political, by the way. That was-
Raining
that was
Blood
about the
by
group.
Slayer.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that one a lot.
Now we are going deep.
Children's album. Sabra Cadabra by Black Sabbath.
I don't know that one great.
Come On Up for the Rising by Bruce. A bunch of sports guys really love it.
Sure.
You just poo-poo that sports guys like Bruce Springsteen.
I'm
Who are you?
Not
You are not part of the fraternity.
I'm not a boss guy, really. Like, I feel like every Bruce Springsteen song, and I might get canceled here on day 2 of being around you. I just feel like Bruce Springsteen gives me a lot of Taylor Swift. It's a lot of the same song over and over again. You know, it's a lot of similarities here, but it's okay. I really like Another One Bites the Dust is a good one.
It's on there.
Somebody's Watching Me is a good one. Started from the bottom, now we're here. I don't know. I mean, we're 5-1.
This is great, guys. Just continue suggesting.
We can say that
See if
at
we can sing
college
it.
football playoff.
Well, you keep pushing the playoff. What are you going to Fansville?
I think the playoff is a legitimate goal for this team. I think this team can legitimately get to the playoffs. Wisconsin's not. You're better than through 6 games. You're better than Wisconsin. You've looked better than Iowa. You've looked a lot better than UCLA. So there's 3 right there. You're 8-1. So now you have Indiana, Michigan, and USC. Or Indiana, Ohio State, USC. So if you can go 2-1, which I think is less likely to happen than more likely to happen, but still a possibility. There's a path there.
Yeah.
There's a path. And I think that's a legitimate goal.
Like I told you yesterday, still it's week to week. I'm not ready to project out
I agree.
because they don't feel like a playoff team. Nebraska football to me right now feels like on the cusp of should be ranked 20 to 25 as we enter week 7 of a bye week. Not saying you're wrong because you're projecting ahead.
Sure.
I need to see like the next 2 weeks.
I think for you to come around on maybe where I'm at, you need to see 4 great quarters of football. You need to see a complete game.
Absolutely true.
I think if you saw 4 quarters of football put together, because we've seen a playoff team in quarter 1 against Colorado. We saw a playoff team in quarter 4 against Purdue. I think you've seen them play at a level that is college football worthy. But the problem is that they play like, St. Mary of the Wise in quarter 4 against Colorado and in quarter 1 against Purdue.
That was a hell of a pull there.
Thank you. So this is if you see, I think you're 4 quarters away. You're 4 quarters. You're like
I put my 4 fingers in the air. You're absolutely correct.
You're trying to get Gumball out of the machine in 1972. You're just 4 quarters away from doing it.
To be fair, he had the hand to fit in the Gumball
inflation?
machine.
I don't know. I don't know what the prices were circa 1972.
You probably never have gotten anything out of a Gumball machine.
I have. Gumball's machine existed when I was alive. I had a VHS TV when I was growing up. Okay,
so did we.
You should not apologize. You should embrace that.
I am embracing.
We will embrace Brett Ciancia from Pick 6 Previous. See what I did there?
Wow, we spent 20 minutes on that. Can we?
And it'll be on the radio replay if you'd like to relive it as your day goes on.
Okay, I do want to talk about this before we get Brett on. Can we talk? Were you closing out the segment?
We gotta get Brett on.
All right, we'll talk about it at some point.
We still have 2.5
I'm excited for
hours.
Brett though.
From Pick Six Previews, Week 7. He's next on 1620 The Zone.
What is also next is, it's the football season, and it has begun with Underdog Fantasy. It is officially back. It is the best time of the year. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on your favorite players. Touchdowns, passing yards, anything they keep stats on. Anyway, making picks on Underdog, straightforward, and signing up is even easier. So easy that even I can do it. If you know, you know. It's a big deal. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with promo code ZONE, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code ZONE to claim your new customer special of a free pick, and your deposit offer must be 19 plus in Nebraska and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. And Nebraska is one of those states because I just said it. Terms apply. Concerned with your plays. Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
It is the second Saturday of October, chaotic in the first Saturday. What will this bring? More ranked matchups. What it will bring is Brett Ciancia from Pick Six Previews as he joins us now. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Gary. Doing great. Thanks for having me on. It's going to be a big Saturday coming up, and fresh off of a big upset Saturday last week. The season's wide open.
Nick is out for today, so you'll hear from Matt, who is just dying. You are one of his favorite college football people of all time. So this is an honor for him.
Oh, great. Well, good to talk to you, Matt.
Brett, I'm a massive fan. Seriously, when Gary told me you were coming on yesterday, I geeked out a little bit. I buy the book every single offseason. I use your stats. I love the player development stuff. I love the win rating stuff. You're absolutely awesome. I can't wait for this.
Oh, thanks a ton for the praise. Yeah, glad to talk with you guys.
Hey, why are you Gary's laughing at me. I'm an admirer of great college football writing. All right, and I have to give Mr. Ciancia his due because not enough people are.
Warming our heart.
I love it. Thank you.
That's awesome, man. Thank you.
Chaotic last week. Why was last week so chaotic to you?
Yeah, well, college football surprises us when you least expect it. You know, all the eyes were on this October 11th. It's Saturday. We called it Cancel Your Plan Saturday. It turns out it's when you least expect it because the Saturday before that, all the chaos hit the wall. And, you started at the top. You had Alabama lose to Vanderbilt first time in 22 tries. 7 days off of – I was just down there in Tuscaloosa seeing them beat Georgia. 7 days later, they lose to Vanderbilt. So that's the headliner. You had a couple of Big Ten upsets there towards the bottom of the top 10 with Michigan versus Washington, USC, Minnesota. And then a shocker at night with Tennessee, Arkansas. And then I was one of those crazies that stayed up till 2:30 East Coast time to watch Miami Cal almost be the sixth top 11 team to go down. And Miami survived again. But just a wild Saturday, top to bottom.
Well, Brett, you called this, and you're absolutely right. The Cancel Your Plan Saturday, a bunch of incredible matchups. I'll just give you the softball, kind of lob it up to you question. Which matchup are you most excited for? Which one is going to get you glued to your TV more than any other one?
Yeah, well, I think it's the easy answer this time. It's the Ohio State-Oregon. You got number 2 versus number 3. It's the top 2 teams in the Big Ten that were projected in the preseason. You have underlying stories too, like Chip Kelly going back to Autzen Stadium, where he built up Oregon into this machine that they still are, and just a real test for both programs. So I'm going to go with that one, and it's really strength on strength because in my advanced stats and my game grader, these two are at the top of every metric. I mean, there's really no weakness that I can find on paper from Ohio State or Oregon. Maybe a quarterback where Gabriel was a little shaky early September, and then with Will Howard, who maybe hasn't faced a solid team like this. I guess they did well against Iowa, but another true test. So that's the headliner for me. But you can go 6, 7, 8 games deep here. You're going to need multiple TV sets too.
This feels like a game that should be in the Rose Bowl, but welcome to the new NCAA. If you're looking at strength on strength and Ohio State, well, people focus on 2 incredible wideouts in Egbuke and Smith and Will Howard throwing them the football. They have been great running the football. If there's an area that you think Oregon could take away, what would it be in this matchup?
Yeah, well, I think that Will Howard is the biggest question. You're right about those 2 receivers. You're right about the running back duo, and Judkins has been unbelievable, the Ole Miss transfer. They've really reestablished that run game. So I think the key is to make Will Howard beat you. And, so make him beat you through the air. And because we've seen him at Kansas State, he was definitely a runner. He did well with his legs in the Big 12. But I don't know that he has that high playoff elite caliber, that NFL first round passing caliber that you might need to win some of these matchups. So that might be the only weakness I could think of, or not even weakness, but just uncertainty.
Brett, I want to go from one massive matchup between Oregon and Ohio State. Let's go to another Red River rivalry. Texas, Oklahoma, the first iteration of the SEC versus, the SEC iteration of this Red River rivalry. Oklahoma, still a ranked team, still incredibly talented, have a incredibly tough schedule this year. What do you think of this one? And literally, and a little bit on the underlying storyline between Archie Manning, Quinn Ewers, and how that might play into things.
Yeah, well, with their quarterback discussion, what a great problem to have because I say that Arch Manning, he probably would start at, 115 of the FBS teams, maybe 120 FBS programs, but Here he's behind Quinn Ewers, who came in as one of the Heisman favorites, a guy fresh off a playoff run and was a few yards away in that playoff game from a national title appearance. So that's a great problem to have. I think you still want to go with Ewers if he's back 100%. He's a guy that led you last year. He's got 3-year starting experience, but you got to feel good if Arch has to go. With either quarterback, I like Texas here. I like Texas big. My game grader projects it as a 17-point favorite for Oklahoma. That's a field goal difference than what the line currently is at 14. So some good value there. I think they're the more complete team in every sense of in every position group. And the key matchup that I love is their front seven against Oklahoma's O-line, Oklahoma's O-line, they sent all 5 players either to the pros or the portal last year. It's a fresh bunch. They're struggling. Quarterback struggles. So I'll go Texas here.
So I want to ask you a follow-up here with Oklahoma, right? So they play the number 1 team in the country, and then it just does not get any easier after that. You got, as of right now, number 9 Ole Miss, followed up by Maine, and then number 21 Missouri, number 7 Alabama, and the season with number 13 LSU. You're looking at a potential for you lose 4 out of your last 5 games. Is there any concern, you think, about Venable's current job and maybe him being on the hot seat or maybe Oklahoma moving on from him this year if they're not able to pick up 1 or 2 big wins at the end of the year?
Yeah, well, that's the era of the mega conference and the no divisions, where these conference schedules are so unbalanced team to team, where a team like Missouri faces none of those top teams, and then Oklahoma has to play all of them. It's part of the reason why in the preseason book I had Oklahoma, I think, 18th nationally, but all the way down 9th in the SEC standings. It's crazy just because of the conference slate. I don't think they fire Venables. I think he gets another year. They want to give him another year in this transitional, moving up to the SEC. If anything, I think they'd move on from their OC. I think that it's been underwhelming what's been going on there since they've lost Jeff Lebby. So maybe an OC move before you go any kind of hot seat talk.
Dang, it will not be 3 straight weeks that the number 1 team in college football will go down. There is the number 4 team in college football that's the part of the country you live in. So you've gotten to hear James Franklin talk about how small his runway is in State College and that they got, oh my gosh, they got a bus to Harrisburg to get on a flight to fly out to USC. Interesting game, Brett, from the standpoint of Penn State's trying to stay unbeaten, stay in the picture, stay in the top 5. And then there's USC coming off a head-scratching loss in Minnesota. And this stat I'm going to throw at you. This will be the 98th game that Lincoln Riley has coached as a head coach. He has never had a team that has failed to score 20 points in back-to-back games, but he's facing a Penn State defense that has me intrigued. They've only given up 18 points in the last 3 games. What gives in this game where there's a lot at stake for where Penn State is chasing the playoff and USC is chasing what is this year going to become?
Yeah, well, I trust Penn State's defense a lot more in this matchup. I mean, I love them. Last year, they were actually graded number 1 in my book defensively last year and brought about half their starters back, and I think they reloaded at both coordinator spots, and this is a key matchup for him. I view USC a lot differently than I did around Labor Day. They went out there, they beat LSU. They looked like maybe one of the true Big Ten contenders, but they've laid 2 eggs in a row now. They lost to Michigan, they lost to Minnesota. That one especially laying an egg there. So I don't know. It's going to be hard to motivate these teams after they get their second loss because that's pretty much maybe one more mulligan and you're out for playoff contention, especially when 2 losses are in the league. So I think the motivation is with Penn State. They want to continue to flex. They want to stay in this undefeated tier. And I think they get it done. I think they're slight favorites. I would take Penn State here. These are the kind of games that James Franklin is great at. It's just that he struggles when he gets to that next tier, that Ohio State or an elite Michigan year or something like that. But these are the teams that he takes care of.
Brett, I know we're talking to you from Big Ten country, but I want to talk to you about what I think is honestly the most intriguing matchup. And now with Georgia having a loss in the SEC and Alabama having a loss in the SEC, a game that's going to have major SEC implications, Mississippi versus LSU hosting that 3.5-point dogs. What's your look on that? A big game for Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, well, right away, the thing that pops out is that LSU is a underdog at home during a night game in Death Valley. That's just, no matter what the records are, no matter who they're playing, that's odd to see. So that stood out. But with that said, I think one specific matchup I like here is the Ole Miss passing offense with Jackson Dart and all those receivers and Lane Kiffin's playbook and their tempo against the bottom 10 LSU pass defense. They haven't made as much progression as I thought they would with the new coordinator, Blake Baker, coming in. So that's a true weakness so far through 5 games, and I think Ole Miss exploits that. LSU also, I'll say this: I don't feel good about this either way, betting wise, because LSU's been the mystery team. We saw them on Labor Day, and that's pretty much it. I haven't really seen them since. I know they had a battle with South Carolina, but it's been non-conference, bye weeks, and really quiet from their end. So, I mean, I would go Ole Miss, but it is dangerous going into Death Valley.
Brett Ciancia from Pick Six Previews joining us. We kind of had a musical theme here, Brett, on this Friday show because young Matt he loves to sing out loud.
That's not true.
And so I'm going to use a song, the next episode by Dr. Dre, where we go, hold up. Hold up here for a moment. Is Colorado actually a contender in the Big 12 with a monster game late night in Boulder tomorrow night, 9:15 on ESPN? They're 2-0. Could be a statement opportunity against Kansas State, but are they an actual contender in the Big 12?
Yeah, I mean, by default, because everyone's a contender in the Big 12 at this point. It's so wide open. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, you could argue 9-10 teams still. And Colorado, how about this? I mean, I was out there in Lincoln for the Nebraska-Colorado game. I saw Nebraska's front seven absolutely destroy Colorado's offensive line. I think it was like 8 sacks on Sanders. What I saw there, I can't believe that they went out and won their first 2 conference games. I know one was by a Hail Mary pass against Baylor, but then to go flex on UCF, 48-21, they're impressing me. And I think retroactively, this might end up being a ranked win for Nebraska when all the dust settles. So another true test here. Kansas State's coming in with a conference loss. They can't afford a second one if they want to still contend for a Big 12. But look at the blueprint that BYU pulled off against them. They got outgained by 200 yards against Kansas State, but they had turnovers, and they took care of turning turnovers into points. So Colorado is going to have to be turnover happy with their defense and let Sanders and Hunter do their thing. So it's very intriguing, this team. It's week to week, and they look a lot better than they did in September.
Brett, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but, a lot of big matchups, right? Give me, if you can, a under-the-radar matchup that you're looking at this week. Give me maybe one that maybe not a ton of people are talking about, but you're really interested in watching.
Yeah, I'll give you 2 real quick. One is tonight because I do cover Utah and BYU at KSL. So Utah is back off their bye week. They're playing Arizona State, who has stacked a couple Big 12 wins. And Utah reeling because of their quarterback injury, Cam Rising. It's the same story as last year. Will he play? Is he still injured? And the same storyline as tonight. We don't know if we have Rising there. I think he'll play, but I could have said that the last 16 games and been wrong. So that's one tonight to look out for. And then tomorrow, another one, Washington versus Iowa. I think the wrong team is favored here by my numbers. I would have Washington favored, even though it's on the road. They're a lot better, a lot stronger than their record would show right now. And Iowa is reeling off a 35-7 loss, a physical loss to Ohio State. So I think Washington goes in there and wins.
The state to the east of here, if you think Washington wins on the road in Iowa City for an 11 a.m. kick, some of us are waking up and going, Iowa State is still unbeaten. That's a tricky game. Night game playing in Morgantown against West Virginia, who I still can't figure out. I want to believe that Neil Brown has it going in the right direction. Winning on the road is hard. Mm-hmm. Is this going to be even harder for Iowa State to stay unbeaten tomorrow night?
Well, Gary, take a look at your calendar. It is, in fact, Rocktober. Matt Campbell, one of the best October coaches in the history of the sport. I think that's actually a stat. The last 20 years, he's number 2 in October against the spread. It's unbelievable. That's some Brocktober. Now you got Rocktober. They're going to continue. And I trust them, that staff, that team, a lot more consistently than I would West Virginia, who's got some good highs like last week, but some real bad lows. It's variable. I'll go Iowa State.
Fantastic. My friend, enjoy a great, maybe a chaotic day of college football, but it'll be some bangers from the early window to the mid window to the late window. As always, we appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy.
Thank you, Brett.
Brett Ciancia from Pick Six Previews. All right, the number one game of the day tomorrow is you're going Ohio State, Oregon? I mean, I'm just going off your question to Brett, but you're hedging.
I'm going to go Ole Miss LSU.
Ooh, good call. I'm not going to.
I really find that so
intriguing.
Chest
bump on that one.
So intriguing because you got a Alabama team that now has a loss in the SEC. You have a Georgia team that now has the loss in the SEC as well. With so many teams, if one loss can really put you in that SEC championship game. And so these two teams, Ole Miss and LSU, have an incredible opportunity to put themselves, if you win this game, you're putting yourself in contention of that SEC title game. And if you, to just get into that SEC title game is to get into the college football playoff. I find it, like Brett said, incredibly intriguing. How many times is the LSU Tigers in Death Valley and they're an underdog?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Lane Kiffin has been an incredible story in college football, and the fact that he's so highly touted, everyone respects him. He's this great offensive mind, but Ole Miss is a lot like the Penn State of the SEC, right? They're solidly in that second tier, but they're not in that Alabama, Georgia echelon, right? If they're able to win this game, you go into Death Valley, you get a win against LSU, you look dominant in doing it, you kind of enter yourself into that tier 1 for this season after Georgia loses to Alabama and then Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. So yes, absolutely. Oregon and Ohio State's a big matchup, but when I'm looking big scope here at what this could mean for college football, Ole Miss and LSU, I'm really intrigued by that.
Yeah, not a good spot for Ole Miss. They are good defensively. They haven't faced an offense like LSU. Good call on that one.
What about you?
The nighttime slate, Ohio State, Oregon, because I'm very intrigued because there's a ginormous amount of talent. But the late night slate is going to be a banger. I mean, that's going to be decision-making on which gets the prime TV.
Yeah.
Great that Nebraska's not playing. They did us a favor. Great that Nebraska's playing at 11 next week because there's a good 2:30 game. There's a good 6:30 game out of the SEC. But this weekend, we knew this was coming, and it's going to live up to the billing. But will we have the number 1 team in the country be beat for the 3rd straight week? I mean, everything on paper says Texas is going to cruise to a win in the Red River rivalry.
What did we say last week?
But what has this series proven over the years?
It's a shootout.
Anything can happen.
Absolutely.
That's the love of college football. But OU is down their wide receiver in Banks, the Purdue transfer.
I think it's good Nebraska isn't playing this week in terms of relevance because if you're playing this Indiana game this week, that gets lost in the shuffle. The fact that they're playing it next week, more eyes on it, good for the brand.
Coming up next, Lee Sterling from Paramount Sports. He's been on a heater. He's got thoughts on these games and a couple of NFL games. He'll join us next on Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Matt McMaster in for Nick on 1620 The Zone. All right, a staple of the Football Friday Fiesta is our chat with Lee Sterling from Paramount Sports, who the Vikings are on a heater, the Chiefs are on a heater, but nobody as hot as Paramount Sports with Lee Sterling. He joins us now. Good morning, Lee.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good. Not as good as you. This is I mentioned it last week, and you were with us. 14-4 over the last 2 weekends.
Wow.
People that are getting in and buying, being part of Paramount Sports. You are giving a lot of people the opportunity to go to Disney World over Christmas because of Paramount Sports.
Sure. Yeah, it's been a fun run, and also on top of that, hitting the big plays, the 40 to 50 unit max wagers each of the last 2 weekends. So this is what I'm going to do. Never done this before. Normally you have to be a monthly or season subscriber.
Mm-hmm.
Normally we have a 5 for 55 on Sunday, and it doesn't have any units attached to it. I'm going to offer on Saturday and Sunday my 5 top plays, including a 40 to 50 unit max wager each day, $55. How about that? We're 68-24 lifetime on these 40 to 50 unit max wagers. So I know there's a lot of people out there that, maybe, can't spring for the full month or season. Maybe they're trying it on their own or with another service. 5 for 55. Most people are buying both days because both days will include a max wager. And I know if I win for them, they're going to come back and want to ride with me through the Super Bowl and football, and maybe try some other sports like hockey, basketball, and UFC.
All right, Mama needs a pair of shoes. Paramount Sports can put shoes on your feet. Let's first start. Tricky game. Nighttime, Morgantown, Iowa State, still unbeaten, trying to figure out the Big 12. They are just a slight favorite. What happens tomorrow night in Morgantown?
So this is a tough place to play. Now, I think the reason people got off West Virginia was that opening week game against Penn State. It's just one of those days where they just did not have it going from the opening kickoff. But all of a sudden, West Virginia is starting to click. They held Oklahoma State to just 227 total yards here. And I think the schemes that they use on offense are going to give Iowa State's defense some trouble here. Wrong team favored, guys, here. I'm going West Virginia outright, 30-26.
Ooh.
Yep.
Totally
this
see
might,
that.
This Big 12, I'm telling you guys, this might be one of those years where 5 teams have 2 losses going into the final week.
Wow.
Yep.
Second game, OU Texas, the Red River Shootout, as we Texans know it. Texas favored by 14, and anybody that knows that game right away, that'll make you turn your face and blink your eyes, and that's a lot of points.
Where are you from, Matt, in Texas?
This is Jimmy.
Oh, Jimmy, where are you from in Texas?
San Antonio.
That's right. Yeah, I went to, as you know, Southwest Texas State, and now Texas State. So, I think that Texas is going to be ready for this game. We've seen some crazy results in this series. We've seen some blowouts and some huge upsets. Oklahoma won last year 34-30 as a 5-point underdog. But Quinn Ewers threw for 371 yards. The difference was they were -3 in turnover ratio. 2 key interceptions Quinn Ewers threw were the difference in that game. I just can't go into this game with Michael Hawkins, true freshman quarterback. I think he might be the quarterback that ends up making some key mistakes. And if OU's defense is on the field for 38, 40 minutes, they're in trouble. Texas, 35-14.
Lee, Matt here. Gary called Iowa State versus West Virginia a tricky game. I think this next one is a really tricky game as well. Penn State, number 4 team in the country, going to the Coliseum against a frisky USC squad. What are you looking at here?
I think it is too. On paper, Penn State, the better team running the football, better defense, but Miller Moss, they have not faced a quarterback like this. He's completing almost 65% of his passes. And cross-country teams are 1-7 straight up in the Big Ten. The only winner has been Indiana so far over lowly UCLA. I can't trust Drew Allard. 9 touchdowns, 1 interception, but his career, he hit in big games against Ohio State, Michigan, and Ole Miss, has not produced. And how about this stat? Lincoln Riley, 7-1 against the spread as a dog of 3 or more points here. Wrong team favored. USC knocks off on
Wow. You had me at hello, but now we might be out. Let's talk Ohio State, Oregon. Is this the first time this season where Ohio State showcases just how dominant they can be? National spotlight in Eugene, slight favorite, both teams top 5. What happens?
I think they're the only team in college football that does not have a perceived weakness. They went against a strong Iowa defense last week, and Quinchon Junkins ran for 6 yards per carry. Trevion Henderson, 5.5. As good as Oregon's running back is Jordan James, those two guys are just better. And I think something's wrong with Dylan Gabriel. Hasn't been the same this year as we've seen in the past at Oklahoma and before that Central Florida. And Oregon, when they faced Boise State ran for them on 221 yards they put up on the ground. The only reason Oregon won the game, in my opinion, they had a punt and a kickoff return for a touchdown in the second half here. And I just also don't love Dan Lanning. If he's trailing in a game, he'll start going for it on 4th down once his team goes over the 50-yard line. I think he panics too early. I think the right team's favorite, Ohio State 34-24.
Lee, in the NFL, I'm just going to stay in the Metroplex. The Cowboys on a rare winning streak.
Yep.
At 3-point underdogs at home to the Lions, who they still have some bad memories of a bad call gone wrong down there.
Yeah, they do. And in that game last year, CeeDee Lamb went off. I mean, 227 receiving yards. I think their defense is better equipped to guard him this year. And what happens is people play against teams that have big injuries the first week. And people love Pittsburgh last Sunday night. Oh, Pittsburgh at home. Just lay the 2.5. Oh, that home field advantage, that defense. Well, what happened? Dallas came together for 1 week. They really are not a good home team, have not won a home game yet this year. And Detroit, after facing a couple teams to start the year that they had defeated in the playoffs, now they get a chance to look for revenge. I think this is a circle game for them. I like Detroit big, 31-13.
Lee, you are so generous to our listeners. I know you got a free play between Iowa and Washington. How can our listeners go and look at that and pick that up from you?
So here's what we're going to do. The first 5 callers will call 800-400-9741. I'll give them Iowa and Washington on me. I have a real strong feeling on this game. I think it's an easy winner. Iowa against Washington, first 5 callers, 800-400-9741. And if you want to get the 5 for 55, college football or the NFL, go to ParamountSports.com, and it will include a 40 to 50 unit max wager. So ParamountSports.com, or call us here at the office, 800-400-9741.
Lee, have a great weekend. Thanks as always, and continued success.
You too, guys. Take care.
Lee's on a roll. Could Washington win back-to-back games in the Big Ten over 2 teams that played for the conference title last season?
That'd be
Michigan
massive.
and then at Iowa. And then they'll kick themselves for the game they blew at Rutgers in Week 5.
Does and I don't want to start anything to our neighbors, out east, but if Iowa loses that game, is it getting a little warm for Kirk?
Look at this, people. Jimmy, this is Mr. Hot Seat guy.
Is it getting a little warm? Is it getting a little warm?
He's got Brett Venables and he's got Kirk Ferentz. He wants Ryan Day on the hot seat.
Can you put Mike McCarthy? Do Mike McCarthy now.
Gen Z guy over here. He's
Dude,
like,
it is.
hot
I'm
seat
just
guy.
saying. I'm just saying. You're only as good as your last game. You're only as good as. Do you know why I think is also might be on the hot seat if they lose this week? Lose badly this week? Lincoln Riley. Getting a little warm.
Oh.
There's a lot of warm seats out there, Gary.
We got the handshake meme. I'm not all in on Lincoln Riley. That's the team that I've changed probably the most on.
Rightfully
about
so.
what could happen.
I agree, and we can talk about it a little bit later. But it's weird looking at USC because if you're watching the games, I think you're kind of in on them. If you're not, if you're just looking at the scores, you're like, well, what's going on? That's how I see it.
Halftime, the band will be on the field on a Football Friday Fiesta. A little bit later, Mike Schaefer will stop by. What was Matt Rule and Rob Dvorak doing last night in Kansas City to see Dawson Merritt, who is still committed to Alabama, but still has a keen interest in Nebraska? Also get Schaef's thoughts on the midseason, and also Matt Verzal still to come before we're out of here on Football Friday Fiesta with Jimmy, with Matt. I'm Gary on 1620 The Zone.
I can explain.
Old school Van Halen.
Yeah.
Mike.
We had a caller call in during, I believe, Brett. And
All right.
she said, tell Gary, this is my song, Dreams by Van Halen. He said, play it for him, and she will appreciate it.
Good call.
That's her song for Nebraska's first 6 games. There we go.
You want to sing this?
I don't know the song.
It's okay. This is the Sammy Van Halen.
The what?
Van Hagar.
The what?
Sammy Hagar. There was David Lee Roth, and I'll explain later.
Yeah, put it on the list.
Yeah,
what am
put it
I,
on the
Captain America now in the second movie? I'll put it on the list.
All right, welcome back in Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Nick will be back on Monday. Matt McMaster in for the second day. Jimmy here as well. Mike Schaefer joins us at the top of the hour. Because you are in tune with all of this.
Yes.
You are Mr. Pop Culture. You have sometimes, as you, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I don't want people to think, oh, this is what Gary thinks of Matt.
Sure.
You said this to me. You said sometimes I'm a 15-year-old and then sometimes
No.
I'm a 55-year-old. No, wait a minute.
My friends have said that.
You told me that sometimes you're a 65-year-old woman.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I told you.
I don't know many 65-year-old women.
Well, thinking about it, I don't really either. But
I knew some, but they got older and died. But
I
were
don't know. I
65
just
once.
I kind of get grumpy. Like my dad's always been like, you got an older soul.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I don't get me wrong. Kid likes to go out, but I also enjoy. I
Nice
also
third-person reference there.
I also enjoy just sitting down on my couch and having a beer or whatever. And I enjoy a really nice dinner. I like pasta. I like tiramisu. That's very 65-year-old woman of me. So a little biscotti. I'm not Italian, but
Are you
man,
watching
I wish
Family
I
Feud
was.
yet? Wheel of Fortune?
I kill at Wheel of Fortune.
Okay.
I am really good
I'm
at
not
Wheel of
judging
Fortune.
because I feel like
I love it.
I'm off once Pat retired. It's not the same with Seacrest.
It's terrible with Seacrest. But that isn't the what's her name? Now I'm blanking again.
Vanna?
Vanna. Her daughter's doing it now, right? It's like the
Don't
Jack
know.
Collinsworth of the Jack.
I've been meaning
Collinsworth
to
of
check
network
out this new
TV,
Wheel of
you know?
Fortune, but
I'm pretty
think
sure
she-
her daughter is doing it. I think so. I think she's doing so. I don't think Vanna's retired, but I think her
No,
daughter.
Vanna's still full-time.
Yeah, she's still singing.
I
She's
think-
still got her fastball.
I think Vanna's daughter might be the executive producer.
She's not doing the letters. I thought that's what my
No,
dad
you
said.
can't. No, I don't know what your dad's thinking. I don't think you can replace Vanna just like that.
yeah, I don't think so. I don't think she's 27 years young.
Flaky Jake says, not sure what it is this year, but for the previous 8 years, Crazy Train by Ozzy. For a song to sum up Nebraska football.
No more tears if we're going to do that.
You know what? Here's what I'll say. I'll agree
Mama,
with
I'm coming home.
I'll agree with Jake about Crazy Train if
Mm-hmm.
this specific thing happens. If they lose to Indiana, but then beat Ohio State, yeah, Crazy Train, 1,000,000%, without a doubt. The perfect anthem.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if it's been
for somebody that's hosting Big Red Reaction for the next 2 weeks. That'd be kind of an odd 2 week stretch.
How would you feel after that? How would you as
that Nebraska? Well, because there's a lot of people that have chimed into the Equitable Bank inbox or on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed of take Ohio State out of the mix. Nebraska is good enough to beat everybody on their schedule, but
Yes.
also lose to everybody. Now I don't know about UCLA. UCLA
They're
is in a
not
different
losing to
world.
UCLA, yeah.
That's why I'm taking it. I'm just a week to week.
I know.
When you get to be
I'm
my,
trying-
when
I'm
you get to
pushing you here.
When
Like,
you
can
get to,
you-
when you get to be my age and you have pill boxes, you're just day to day.
Forever on the IL, Gary Sharp.
Okay, so this is
He
my
laughs,
question.
but he'll have a pill box within 20 years.
I take medicine now. I got
there you go.
bad
You're one
acid
of us.
reflux.
All right.
Seriously.
See, this guy.
It's 65-year-old woman.
I have a
I'm a
question
fan.
that I'm hoping you can answer.
Okay.
So game day is in Eugene. So
Sure.
instead of getting somebody from Animal House, Belushi would be tough.
But immaculate.
Is that on the list? Do you know
John Belushi?
Animal House?
Yeah, great movie.
Ooh, yes.
Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?
That's the 55-year-old Matt
Hell
McMaster.
no.
Let's go.
Heck yeah.
Who's Caitlin Olsen?
Is that one of the Olsen twins? Isn't there Mary
The
Kate
third
Olsen
one?
So that's
and
what
Elizabeth Olsen?
That's what I thought. It
Ashley.
is not.
Ashley Olsen.
So she graduated from Oregon.
90s.
She is the guest picker tomorrow, and I have no idea
What's her name?
who she is.
Caitlin Olsen. I guess she's just a Oregon student. Couldn't they just bring Marshawn? He played against
No,
Oregon.
she's an actress. And I know now because I
she's in
I had
those-
to Google her.
Yeah.
And I watched early Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
But I haven't watched it for
She's
a
married,
few years.
yes.
She's married to Rob McElhenney.
Oh,
She's on a new ABC
thought you were
show,
just
so
gonna
there's
leave
the
it at
tie-in.
No, Rob and her,
yeah.
Rob and her are shacked up. Caitlin and Rob. Never heard of her.
Okay. I know her now.
I don't. She's on a different side of pop culture.
I can't be the only one that didn't when they announced that went. Well, first thought, hey, one of the Olsen twins.
That'd be fun. What if we just got all the Olsens?
There's a
Aren't
lot-
some of them crazy now?
Yeah, that's what happens when you're on
Yeah,
shows like that. Look
exactly.
look at the girls from Brady Bunch. Good on that reference?
No, yeah. Come
Okay.
on, man. I did a
Well, I don't know. I mean,
dang Happy Days reference.
okay. I was just checking.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that whole Happy Days, there was a great Brady Bunch documentary that I watched a couple of years ago about how they kind of just all went crazy and like
Had some
they all got married.
interpersonal relationships.
How can you not back then? I mean, it's a wild, wild west of Hollywood.
That's just like Happy Days. What happened to Chuck? First season disappeared. Never thought of again.
That's a good point. It's good, but those guys turned out pretty well. Like, Arthur Fonzarelli, Harry Winkler had a really good career after that.
Didn't go well for him in Scream, but yeah.
Did you watch Barry? Thought he was really good in Barry.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Big Chiefs fan, by the way.
I know Harry Winkler from Here Comes the Boom with Kevin James. after Happy Days, it's Here Comes the Boom, where he's the band teacher and Kevin James is asked to go and be an MMA fighter in order to resurrect the band program. I love that movie.
Ron Howard has had a nice little post Happy Days career.
I mean, he's one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. He's up there. He's a little bit of the Penn State of filmmaking. He's not on the Nolan Cameron level, but he's definitely a very respectable director. He hasn't had the consistent bangers, and he's had failed projects, just like, James Franklin has had failed seasons. Ron Howard, James Franklin, handshake meme. Right there.
From the Nebraska perspective, who
No, please try to turn this.
Penn State or USC? Because I'm trying also to figure out, is the Big Ten at a point where you have enough teams that are hate watching on Saturdays? Like, how many teams are hate watchers
I know what
out
you're
of the
getting
Big
at.
Ten?
What do you hate? Like,
You
hate watch them.
You hate watch them because you watch them because you want them to lose because you hate them.
Oh, that's a great
I think that's
question.
a good sign of
Is
how
USC
strong your
there?
conference is.
Is USC there?
I don't know. That's why I asked
Because
the question.
now after 2 losses,
20 years ago, yes,
USC is a non-threat, in my opinion, in terms of the bigger scope of like, this is a team that could take a potential nice bowl game away from you or a bid in the CFP or like compete for the Big Ten, because Lincoln Riley blew that game against Michigan.
what he
That
does.
final drive, he threw the ball 3 times.
Are you shocked?
They had 3 incompletions. Michigan couldn't throw the ball to save their lives, but they gave them enough time to run the ball down the field on them because they stopped the clock 3 times voluntarily. He lost that game for him. And then they just got a lot of people were saying about USC, well, I don't know about them going to the Big Ten. They're going to have to learn how to play Big Ten football. And I always kind of rolled my eyes at that because I was like, man, they're just so talented where I'm not necessarily buying that they can go and just get bullied by teams that are inferior to them in terms of talent. I'll put the egg on my face. I mean, I was wrong because they got bullied in the first half against Wisconsin and they got bullied for 4 quarters against Minnesota. The problem is, though, I look at that team play and I see Zachariah Branch and I see Miller Moss and I see these guys who are ultra talented, and it's hard for me to not see them winning more games and not competing because they have competed.
Yeah, it sounds like a USC fan. That's why. So one of the stats I like to look at, I like the stop rate stuff.
Sure.
Which Nebraska is going to enter a phase where they're going to face 4 teams that are highly ranked in the stop rate, the create havoc, force punts, turnovers, all that kind of stuff, get sacks. The other one is pressure rate.
Ooh.
USC's offensive line is 129th in the country in pressure rate. That means they are a sieve. And that does not bode well for their matchup with Penn State. So when I think of down the road, we talked about this yesterday, if you don't know what USC is going to look like in a month, okay,
I agree.
if things go south, what's the vibe when Nebraska goes out there, which Nebraska at worst going to USC, which will be a bye week before they go there. They've won 2 of their last 3. They're already bowl eligible. They're sitting on 7.
Sure.
Okay. But USC can't block, and that Moss is running for his life. So what does Nebraska do well right now?
Yeah.
They rush the quarterback.
They are.
Okay, they get pressure.
4th in the country right now in sacks. I mean, and what I love, and we'll get, and I don't know, maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but we were going to talk about what are you buying?
We'll know in the next segment.
Okay. Then I won't give it up. I won't go fully into it, but like that pass rush, man, is legit. Like that's a legit pass rush.
All right, so we'll do that next. What is real? What is not real? Call it fake if you'd like.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, I think with USC, like you said, a sieve, it's a ton of talent. But let's talk about Lincoln Riley real quick, right? Because you're calling me the hot seat guy, and you're saying everybody's on the hot seat
with Matt.
My problem is that
he's like Aaron Boone, loses last night, goes back game 5 of Yankees. Hot seat.
There are some coaches who I don't think necessarily deserve to be fired and get fired because it's the incompetence of the other people around them. But you look at them and you go, well, they're the ones who hired them. They're the ones who had that decision. Robert Saleh is one guy that I look at where that Jets defense was awesome. That Jets defense has been playing either 17 points per game. That's 5th in the NFL. They're doing their job. And when you look at that offense is playing terrible. And it's
offensive line is bad.
And you're sitting there and you're being like, well, he's the one who hired Nat Hackett. Well, no, we didn't. Aaron Rodgers hired Nat Hackett. So like that's a guy who I look at who shouldn't be fired. Lincoln Riley, with how he handled that Michigan game and how he had ample amount of opportunity in the offseason to prepare his team to go on the road to these Midwest games, to develop a toughness, to be like, guys, these are games where they're going to run it down our throat. We have to be prepared. These are games where we're going to be more talented, but we have to change our mindset. Minnesota is not that great of a team, and they were able to impose their will. That should not happen for a team as talented as USC. So I don't think this is the key card isn't going to work for Lincoln Riley, the next day if they lose to Penn State. I don't think we're that drastic. But if Penn State goes 2 time zones across to the Coliseum and whoops up on these boys, it's going to get real shaky real quick. And you could say the margin of error is really small for Lincoln Riley, but that's just coaching. The margin of error is always small in coaching, not just specific cases.
We'll do what's real, what's not. Matt's favorite game, plays it in life. We'll do that coming up next. Mike Schaefer, about 40 minutes away on 1620 The Zone.
That's Van Halen. And this week's half-off deal is with Scary Acres, which has absolutely nothing to do with Van Halen. Now open for the 2024 season, featuring 3 haunted attractions, the Master's Castle, House on the Hill, and the Haunted Woods. Listen with USC every afternoon this week to win 2 super combo passes. They'll get you into all 3 haunted attractions. The deal goes live 9 a.m. this morning because it's Friday. Details under the Deals tab at 1620thezone.com.
All right, Nebraska, Indiana is sold out.
Wow. What do you think the split rate is there between Nebraska fans and Indiana fans?
There will be a very good collection of Nebraska fans. There will be a lot of shades of red in the stands.
Yeah. Would you say 50? I'd say it's pretty close. It might be 50-50.
We'll see. I think it was slow for Indiana to buy tickets.
Yeah.
A lot of people. It's not that long of a drive.
I think it might turn into one of those like LA Rams games when the Rams are losing and then all of a sudden it turns into Lambeau 2.0. Like I seriously, not too far away. A lot of people in that area, in that kind of Bloomington, Indianapolis, Chicago, pretty decent drive.
You know what? If you're a Nebraska fan in that part of the country, look at that. Back you get Purdue and Indiana.
That's a hell of a slate there to go to either of those places. And by the way, Bloomington, what a great campus.
Good college town.
I mean, it's beautiful. Great college. I almost went there.
A couple of we're glad you didn't.
Yeah.
You and I would have never
met.
Nope.
Maybe at that Game 5 of the World Series in 2016.
Passing in the concourse.
Passing by.
John writes into the Equitable Bank inbox about you.
Sure.
Is NRG Media breaking any child labor laws by having Matt work during school hours?
I'm not in school. I'm graduated. I got my degree in journalism from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, UNL. Not NU. If I got my degree from NU, I would have gone to Northwestern University, but we're not going to break any eggs over that. I just see the gritting of the teeth over there. So no, I'm not in school anymore. Thank God.
Well, I'm glad that NU got you a degree. Tom writes in, so a couple of things here. You're supposed to be the pop culture expert on the show.
I've been stumbling.
Kellyanne wants you to know it's Henry, not Harry.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
I think I'm moving a mile an hour.
There's a difference between being Henry and being Harry.
That's a good one.
Tom writes in, he said, Vanna. He said, hey, Gary, Vanna is still full-time. But what you were thinking of,
yes,
Pat Sajak's daughter, and that's who I was saying is the executive producer, is helping out, was on screen quite a bit towards the end. I'm sure she'll show up soon and take over for Vanna eventually.
There you go. Jack Collinsworth of TV.
So
there. I mean, I'm a little bit behind. I'm like 80% right now. I'm not moving at the full. We're not there yet. The ceiling is the roof, as Michael Jordan would say.
What's real through 6 games that will still be real through the next 6 games?
I've kind of already tipped my hand.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the pass rush. 4th in sacks right now. Great pressure rate. My biggest thing about the pass rush, though, is what I like about it the most is that there's a lot of versatility through that defensive line. And what I mean by that is it's not a one guy dominated pass rush. It's not just you have Aiden Hutchison, you have J.J. Watt, you have Jadeveon Clowney. They don't necessarily, this defensive line doesn't have that, oh my God, top 5 pick pass rusher that's going to wreck the game. But there's a ton of versatility in terms of you got these big boys in Hutmaker and Robinson who can swim move, who can bull rush, who can get through the interior of the defensive line and cause pressure. You have incredible athleticism between Jamari Butler, between James Williams, between Princewell, Uman who can use their length, their speed, and the great technique they're learning from Terrence Knighton, who's done an incredible job coaching up that D-line. And then you have a guy like Cam Lenhart, who is versatile. He can kind of do both of that. Honestly, Cam Lenhart's kind of your prototypical NFL body prospect, right? He's got that height, the weight, the speed to really get drafted high. So I'm buying the pass rush because of they're getting numbers, but they're doing it in a bunch of different ways. And I feel like even if one of those guys go down, the production can still continue.
Back in. Tommy Hill's return. I'm on the heels of your question because everybody's going to need to help out everybody moving forward. I agree with you. I think Nebraska, what is real is the pass rush and their ability to stop the run. That will continue to be the case.
Yep.
I think any discussion about the defense is a little bit predicated on Tommy Hill's health. He's not going to be 100% for the entire year. Okay, he's still going to battle it. But
sure,
buying a week last week and then getting a bye week this week because you're going to face more dynamic wide receivers than you have. Because essentially Nebraska has faced one group of wide receivers that's going to put you in a tension convention. And that was Colorado. But you saw the impact of Tommy Hill. Tommy Hill takes Travis Hunter. All right. Didn't take him out of the game, but Travis Hunter didn't dominate the game.
Yes.
And so you need Tommy Hill, especially the next 2 weeks. So if they can shore up what they do on the back end to complement the emergence of Ciancia Wright and maybe move some guys around where that's more comfortable for them or more advantageous for the defense, then I think your point about the pressure rate and defensive line and kind of the front four comes to fruition.
Absolutely.
I think another thing that is real that will continue is the emphasis on turnovers. One, you don't have the element of the quarterback run game, so the quarterback's not carrying a loaf of bread out there and more likely to get popped and the ball comes free. I think Dylan's decision-making has been really good. I don't want him to get spooked into, I just don't want to throw an interception. I thought I saw a little bit of that against Rutgers.
I did too.
Okay, so you don't want that to still be in the back of his head, but I think the emphasis on not giving up the football, protecting the football, then going to get it will continue over the next 6 games. They're a +6. That's a hell of a turnaround from where they were last year to be a +6. But the fact that they have only lost 1 fumble, that's another big part of this conversation, is they've lost 1 fumble.
That's a culture.
So that's real. That will continue through the next 6 games.
I think that's a culture thing because they have fumbled it. But the emphasis of all right, everybody's got to dive on this ball. Everybody's got to get on this ball.
Do you think it's a culture or just it was beat into our heads after last year? So we rep that? Okay. I could put that under culture, but
yes.
But I'm more of maybe that's just smart football IQ.
Sure. I think
you want to win, don't give the football away.
Once again,
snaps on 3, break.
I think culture is such a broad umbrella that you can just put having a smart football IQ and that being beat into your head into culture. I want to ask you this question. Glenn Thomas, is he your staff MVP right now? Because you're saying, all right, Raiola, the emphasis on not turning the ball over and them being careful. And they've really beaten into his head, like, hey, we can't turn this ball over. Were they not doing that last year with Heinrich? Is that more of do you think that's more of a Dylan type of mindset where he's just not a guy prone to turning the ball over? Do you think it's, they brought in a new voice and he's done a more effective job of telling them?
I think there's more of the quarterback coach being the quarterback coach that has a quarterback that they meet in the middle.
Sure.
Last year, once you lost Jeff Sims, you had an entirely different type of quarterback that Satterfield didn't know what to do with.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a factor in this discussion. Definitely, if you look at everybody that watches practice on a daily basis will tell you the quarterbacks, not just DR15, but even Harburg, Danny Kalin, Ramstad, the Human Victory Cigar, they've all improved. I will tell you a guy that I still don't think gets as much credit. He's not a coordinator. He's not a flashy guy. But I think it was important that he was with Matt Rule yesterday in Kansas City. I think Rob Dvorak is a really underrated, solid football coach on this staff.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, as the linebacker coach.
He is, first off, so respected in that building. There are a lot of people that I knew when I was in Lincoln who were in that staff. And every time you would ask about Rob, they'd talk about how great of a human he is and how people buy into that. And I've had some conversations with him before personally. Just a wonderful, wonderful guy, hard worker, super smart. I agree with you. When we talk about the Nebraska coaching staff, we're more poignant to bring up pot roast, right? I think Evan Cooper, before he resigned, he was the guy, kind of the first coach that got brought up as well.
And John Butler.
And John Butler.
Like guys that are, I don't know, active on the sidelines.
Yeah. You talk about those guys more often. Dvorak, though, look at what he's done with that room. 1,000,000%. I mean, he took a defensive back, turned him into a linebacker, and not only just turned him into a linebacker, but all Big Ten caliber linebacker. One of your best players on defense. Now, here comes the spicy stuff. what's your farce? What's you're not buying it on this team? What's something that you've been looking at and you're like,
so this isn't hey, they've done this really well through 6 games and it'll go the opposite way in the next 6. I think not real is their lack of use of Fedoni in the first 6 games.
What do you continue on that? Not real in the fact that
14 receptions. The way they've used him, where it almost seems like instead of getting vertical,
he's getting out
horizontal and get him the ball, try and get him in space, and then turn up the field. Now, there's part of me that in the back of my head wonder, Fedoni looks a little bit slower this year. But I think there will be an emphasis because I think there are 2 guys on the offensive side of the ball that through the last couple of weeks and self-scouting, you realize their importance to the offense and how the offense has a different vibe when they're on the field. I think Emmett Johnson now will start to ramp up his usage, and we saw that the last 2 weeks. It's starting in the second half against Purdue. I think you will see him on the field more. And then I think Fedoni will be more involved in the downfield passing game. So, instead of behind the line of scrimmage, find a block, go make a couple of cuts, and you got 7-8 yards.
I was going to ask.
You surprised 14 receptions in 6 games?
Not real, like you were saying, not real in the fact that it's not going to continue.
Yes.
He is going to get more involved with the offense. Look, they're going to be playing teams who like to play cover 3 down the stretch, in quarters. And when you want to beat those types of teams that play those safeties back, the tight end has to become that safety valve in the passing game, especially when you have a running game that maybe isn't as effective and a young quarterback who, can get flustered in the pocket sometimes. I think that more often than not, we've seen Raiola not get flustered in the pocket, but we have seen it occur. I think that Illinois overtime and that Rutgers game, definitely those were 2 big examples of that happening. I totally agree. He's going to have to be a bigger part for them if they're going to. I want to say this because I've seen a lot of people in the YouTube chat talking about my college football playoff and 10-2. That's not my expectation for this team, but that is, I believe, a possibility for it to happen. But if that is going to happen, they are going to need Fedoni. Him looking a little bit slower, I kind of see it too. But I do want to reiterate, like, he wasn't like Jake. He wasn't like Loveland over in Michigan. He wasn't like Brock Bowers. This isn't a guy who was tearing up the world necessarily last year and is now taking a major step back. I think it's someone we've had expectations for and just hasn't really been involved as much as we thought it would be.
I think there have been times where they've tried to force him in the game.
Yeah.
Force involvement. Like your first target is 24. I would like to see is this offense, which I don't think the rushing game, those stats are real. They're struggling in the rushing game. I don't think that's going to change.
Yeah.
I think that they are kind of who they are. It's going to be about who's on the field when you want to run the football. Because I don't think all of a sudden overnight, the offensive line is going to start being road graders. Now, whatever you do with Mazuka is interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a discussion point that, maybe the head coach doesn't want to hear about it. But that backup, that's a discussion point of, is he more than a situational guy where he's 6 snaps? Because he makes a difference. But I don't think the running game, all of a sudden after a bye week, is going to look completely different. The only part of it is I think there'll be more 21 on the field. But when I say Fedoni is not forcing the issue of let's get him going, let's get him lathered up, because maybe even through the whole course of things, the targets and the involvement is going to be narrowed down.
Sure.
So you ride your playmakers. He's definitely one of your playmakers. And so it's more of a natural progression inside of the offense than, all right, here we go. We got to get we know this, like you were just alluding to with the coverage they're going to see. We got to get the tight end involved. Here we go.
Yeah.
He's going to be the first target. Hey, maybe Sat, can you get him as a 3rd target?
Sure.
So it'll be more natural, which actually will be a huge benefit for him to keep people, when he almost scored against Rutgers.
Yeah.
He was not the main target on that play.
Well, that's just running an offense. And I feel like what you're alluding to, and you're beating around the bush, but I'll just say it.
Right.
I think the biggest problem with this offense and how the plays are being called is that they're not calling plays how I see it. They're not necessarily calling plays and going, okay, here's your first read, here's your second read, here's your third read. All right, here we go. I feel they're more so calling plays and, hey, Jacory, this is your play. Hey, Thomas, this is your play.
So isn't that who needs a touch?
Exactly. And I think you get yourself in trouble in that because when you have it in, and this is, look, once again, I'm not in the headset. I'm not in the meetings. But what we're seeing on the field, it looks like a lot of, all right, this is the play for this guy, and I think you can get yourself in dangerous situations with a rookie quarterback when what happens if we can't get that ball to that guy? Then there's a little bit of a panic, right? So here's my farce. My farce is the Jacory Barney packages. I don't think that is real because I think it's gadget. I think it's all gadget. The jet sweeps, the touch passes, the sending him in motion. I don't think that's a real thing for the next part of this season, for the next 6 games of the season. I think
really. What do you think his role then becomes? Because I like you have a weapon that you can use in a variety of ways. You don't like that?
No, it's not necessarily that I don't like it. I think teams are catching on to it now. I think that teams know that when he's in the game and he's moving in the motion in that regard, they kind of know where the ball is going. We saw that, Purdue, they kept running it, but they were able to kind of knock them down in that regard. And I think Rutgers did a pretty good job stopping that as well. And I think now that teams are aware of it, it was real gadgety in the beginning of the year because he's a true freshman. You haven't seen him on tape. Teams don't really know he's coming. All of a sudden, they put him in motion. They gave him the ball against Colorado. They gave him the ball against UNI and UTEP. It's like, oh my God, here's this guy. Here's this weapon they have. It's a little startling. Now that you have 6 games of the season and they've used him a ton in the run game, I think the teams are going to be prepared for it. So I'm not buying it for the next six games. But you were getting there. I want him to be throwing the ball. Like, make him a natural target. Make him a third option. Make him a second option. Make him a guy that you'll want to get the ball
first
to pass
option.
him. He could be,
so
absolutely.
Banks has the most receptions at 21.
I think getting him more naturally involved, and also too, Gary, he can be a decoy. He can be one hell of a decoy. He can add some different looks into that offense. He can make the defense kind of second guess, like, all right, here's this kid. He's going in motion again. They're going to give him the ball. Weak side linebackers are ready. They're stepping down to the box. Oh, here comes. They're not giving it to him. I'm out of position. Here comes a leak.
Does Dylan have a favorite wide receiver?
No.
Is that a good or bad thing? Of when we need something, I know where blank is going to be. I know where Banks is going to be.
I think it's the reason you see a lot of plays stall out at the 25-yard line.
They do have a lot of guys involved. I mean, there have been games where there have been 10 different receivers that have caught up football, whether it be a running back, a wide receiver, or a tight end.
How many bend don't break defenses are in this Big Ten?
That are left on the schedule?
Yeah. Well, they're just in general. That's just a general question. A lot.
Oh, you just played one.
Yeah. Bend don't break is, all right, once you get to the 40-yard line, we're going to limit your shots. We're going to lock down here. We're going to get more aggressive on the line. It's a bit of a culture too, bend don't break. It's like, all right, now we're at the point where, hey, we got to lock in, right? I think him not having a favorite target is part of the reason why they leave a lot on the bone when they get to the 40-yard line. Why they have to take delay of game so Buschini can get more of a space to punt the ball. Why you're putting your special teams, let's just say this. We got a lot on Hull for missing that field goal against Illinois. I think that was an unfair position to put him in because he's a backup kicker and 40 yards is no gimme. So I think that
you were listening to the show the day after.
It's no gimme. You got to, I think that but the problem is to get a favorite wide receiver, you have to consistently trust a guy. I don't think they consistently trust a guy, and I don't think they're consistently calling plays for certain dudes because, like you said yesterday, and this is me stealing it from you, who needs a touch? And I just think as we get farther into the season, that is the farce. That is the number one thing you're not buying.
All right, Schaefer will join us in about 15 minutes at the top of the hour. Matt Verzal as well in the last hour. Plus, we have some thoughts on the Week 7 slate.
Yes. Hell of a slate. I'm so excited, dude. So excited.
You got to run in the Chicago Marathon on Sunday.
I know. That's gonna be a son of a bee. That's gonna be real tough for me.
Okay. Well, good luck.
Thank you. I'm not running it. I'm driving through it. Honking the horn. Bang, bang, bang. Get out of the way. Get out of the way.
I believe they have the route blocked off, but do what you got to do.
What was that show where
we'll see him on the news?
He tried cutting he ended up winning the marathon because he cut through it and no one knew. Was that King of Queens with Kevin James, or maybe it was a Seinfeld episode? I have no clue.
Well, it wasn't a marathon, but it was a race. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, actually, it was a marathon.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
There you go.
See, I'm just
Pop culture guy.
There you go. You've rebounded.
I'm trying. I'm trying my best.
People still. I'm glad I was not alone. People like Caitlin.
I've never heard of her. Never heard of her. Heard of her husband. Really good actor.
She's going to be making picks next to McAfee and Saban.
You like McAfee?
Yes.
Love him.
I think what McAfee and Saban have done for game day is much needed.
I think a couple years ago, they were like, what are we going to do when Lee is ready to move on? I think
show had gotten really stale.
It got real stale. And now I feel like they've reinvigorated it.
And they have a new audience.
And Nick is great. Like, Nick is Nick, and it's perfect. Coach Saban. Sorry.
It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Matt in for Nick. Jimmy here as well on 1620 The Zone. All right, two things we learned today. The Colorado Avalanche had a player the other night named Ivan. Do you know that?
I love that.
You know DJ Khaled? Do you know what his first name is?
DJ?
Khaled.
I would have said DJ.
Khaled.
I like DJ Khaled.
George Bush's daughter married like a family member from the Ralph Lauren.
Talk about the Illuminati.
Lauren Bush. Lauren?
Oh, I like where you're going there. I didn't really put that. Yeah. I didn't really put that
also,
together.
You're a little darker there.
Also, the other thing we've learned today is that the red boxes that are still in existence.
No, they're not.
Well, they're still out there. They're not. You can't go and get a DVD.
Sure.
They weigh 900 pounds.
So they're like the TVs we grew up with.
Where are you getting this from?
Right up here. Right here. Right here.
Hey, pop culture guy, big brain guy.
Here is Scott, who is probably better than both of us. Good morning, Scott.
Scotty.
Well, good morning. I'm very humbled by that. It may not be accurate, but I'll take it. Hey, I respectfully disagree with the point about gadgety plays. I think the definition of gadgety plays has changed in recent times. I mean, outside of a punter throwing a pass or a double reverse, those are gadget plays. I love seeing Barney in motion and the jet sweeps. In the past, we haven't had personnel or lacked the execution to make those plays work. So when we ran somebody in motion, there was no threat of that person getting the ball because we didn't make anybody pay for it. Now, I love it when he's going in motion because I'm thinking as a viewer, as the defense should think, is he getting it this time or not?
Sure.
And we can't just assume he's, we've got to keep an eye on him because we've seen him hurt teams of that play. So listen, do we need to find additional ways to get the ball into the hands of folks like that? Absolutely. But I will give Satterfield credit this year. I think he's done a really good job of finding new and creative ways to get the ball into the hands of talented playmakers. So I just want to make that point. Have a great day, guys.
Scott, thank you for the call.
Great point. And absolutely phenomenal call. I want to clarify the point. I want to clarify it here. I agree. It's great that they have it, and it's been effective when they do it. And what I mean by gadget, it's just that they're doing the same plays with the same guys. They're not doing that play with Ja'Cory Barney, with Jalen Lloyd, or anybody else, right? So my point being, I don't think Barney doing those plays is going to have the same effect as it had in the beginning of the season because teams know it's coming. So that's where I'm saying it's a farce. But to Scott's point,
well, can I give you a different phrase?
Yes,
because you are using gadget.
Yes,
which when I think of gadget plays, I think of trickeration.
Sure.
What if I said these are wrinkles? Okay. So that's an option as an offensive coordinator. You're not dialing up trickeration.
Yes,
you have new wrinkles in your offense for the personnel that can fit all those roles.
And I think it's getting a little bit overused, and I think that teams are coming on to it. But to Scott's point, and Scott made a great point, he's absolutely right. They can use him as a decoy. They can use him as a guy like, okay, he's onto the field and he's doing this motion. What if he gets the ball or not? And I'm not saying let's completely wipe it off of the face of the planet. They're still going to run those plays because they have been effective this season. It's just I don't think it's going to be as consistent as you've seen in the first 6 games, and I'm totally fine with it.
See, I don't like him as window dressing.
You can get him involved in other aspects of the game other than just he's so fast. Let's do a mesh concept. Let's do some dagger. If they're running, if they have a couple high safeties, you can throw him across the field in that concept. You can make him a guy where you stretch out the field. So I don't mean to cut you off and not make your point, but like
cooking.
You still need him to absolutely right. You still need to be him in the game, but there are different ways to do it. And I think that now.
So what's if you had a suggestion on a way that he hasn't been used yet? Because I think they've done a great job of lining him up at different spots all over the field because now he has gotten to the point because of his ability, but also how fast he is. You have to, as a defensive coordinator, you have to pay attention to 17. And so when he starts moving, that adds to the pre-snap stuff that goes on. So that just is a trickle-down effect to the quarterback. So a position that they haven't used him, that you think they will use him after a self-scout week and 6 games to go.
Why not go 2x2 and have him as the running back and then throw him in an orbit motion?
They have used him. Okay, so they've run with him out of the backfield, but what you're saying, I think
almost
maybe
go
once or twice.
Almost
they have
go
lined up
like
that
you're basically going 5 wide, right? But you're putting him in a 2x2. But so you're going to throw the ball here when you put Jacory next to him. But then you can set him in motion in a way that gets him a running start, that gets him going up the field before you even snap the ball. And the reason why I say that is you're not going to catch that guy. If Jacory gets 3 steps when you're flat-footed and you can get him moving toward up the field, or maybe even just toward the line of scrimmage, that's something that I would like to see them do. I think that that's another way. Or you can just set it up where, hey, we're going to put him in the slot over and over and over and over and over again, and we're going to set things up, and he's going to be option number 2 and option number 3, and he'll be the second read and the third read. And then all of a sudden, maybe they forget about him. Maybe there's a bust in coverage, and just boop down the field, right? And it just with this Nebraska defense behind him, it just takes one bust in coverage and one quick touchdown for this offense and this team to get going, because that can be enough, because this defense is so good.
All right, more on this with Mike Schaefer when he stops by. Matt Verzal as well in the last hour of the Matt McMaster Experience on 1620 The Zone. All right, Mike Schaefer's going to, excuse me, going to join us here in a little bit.
Hairball. I'm kidding.
Was the light went on, and I went,
the lights are too bright. Turn them off. Turn them off.
Hey, just without looking, so you don't Google him, how long do you guys think that Chip Kelly was the head coach at Oregon?
8 years.
Less. I'd say, was it 4?
Mm-hmm.
What was it?
2009 to 2012.
Yeah.
Wow.
Got to the championship game in 11, but it
felt like that.
It felt like it was longer than that. And he goes back to Oregon in Ohio State gear. Now, as the UCLA head coach, they played in Eugene. Mario Cristobal blew a gasket. I knew the guy that was, the football media relations guy for Oregon. And the first time Chip Kelly and UCLA went back there, they didn't want to make a big deal of it.
Sure.
And like Mario wanted to make sure that UCLA and Oregon were running on the field at the same time. So when the duck comes out of the motorcycle, that, UCLA doesn't hang back so that Chip Kelly gets a response.
Oh.
Well, the PA guy went rogue on that day at Autzen Stadium and made a big deal about Chip Kelly being back as UCLA was coming on the field. Cristobal went nuts.
I did not know that.
So he comes back with a better chance to beat Oregon as the OC at Ohio State. Is what if he wouldn't have left Oregon? You guys think he'd still be there? He left and went to the NFL, didn't go so well in 2 stops, back to UCLA. That was, in the landscape changing, was not the place for him. He's in a much better spot, gets kind of out of the spotlight, can do what he does best. But what if he would have stayed at Oregon? What would Oregon football look like today?
Oh,
man,
that's a great question.
I think he was changing the game.
Listen, I don't think anything different would have happened in terms of the success they had. I think they would have continued to be successful.
Think they had a national championship?
They would continue to compete.
You think the Pac-12 would have stayed together?
Ooh, no, because Oregon was still good during that whole changing of everything. They were still relevant. Were they as good as he was? Were they as good of a team or a program as he was when he was there? No, but I still think they were a big enough brand, to encourage. I mean, they would have left regardless if Chip was there or not. And I think that has nothing to do with Oregon and everything to do with the changing of the landscape. I have a question for you. How do you view Chip Kelly as a coach? Because I think that you've
offensive mastermind, great.
Yeah. As a head coach, though, you think his time's done?
Yes. I think he's more comfortable not being involved in the NIL discussion. I don't know what his amount of recruiting he does at Ohio State, but he just gets to call plays. To be honest, I think if Scott Frost just got to call plays and design plays and didn't have to be in front of the media, didn't have to do the NIL, didn't have to do as much recruiting, I think it'd be ideal for him too.
There are guys who are made to be coordinators and there are guys who are made to be coaches.
There are some guys also that are great play designers.
Yeah.
But then when the lights are on, the scoreboard is on, and those plays that you design have to be called to win a football game, you're maybe not as successful.
I don't think
because you're the overseer of the guy calling the plays, or you take on the role of the head coach and the OC.
I don't think Dan Campbell would be a very good coordinator. I think he's a hell of a head coach. And I think Chip Kelly's a hell of a coordinator. And I don't think Chip Kelly should head coach again. Do you think that they would be in the same spot? Like, do you think they would still be contending for national titles if Chip never left?
At Oregon?
Yeah. Or do you think he would have? Do you think he
he would have been able to retain? Because he had a pretty good staff of some up and comers.
Yeah.
And then he had some older guys that were able to retain. I think that machine would have kept moving along, and he would have tried to keep reinventing himself. And then you would have gotten closer to the modern day NIL, where Oregon already has, Phil Knight wants a title, but even more so if they would have had a lead in of success. There's a reason why Dan Lanning is there.
It's interesting to me. Do we look at, and I know I'm crossing sports here, but if Chip Kelly stays and continues to win at the manner in which he does at Oregon, but then decides, I don't want to do NIL, I don't want to do the transfer portal, I am going to move to a coordinator spot. So let's just say he does the same thing, right?
Goes from Oregon head coach to Ohio State?
Yeah, something like that. Or maybe retires. or just retires. Maybe just retires, because at that point, if he's still at Oregon winning all those games and having all that success, he can just retire if he wants to. Do we look at him like Jay Wright? As a guy who, man, he's a hell of a coach.
But he would have a title.
But he would. He's staying in Oregon, and he already had a title in the 4 years he was at Oregon. So
got there in 11.
Yeah.
So he had an appearance.
He had an appearance.
Possibly. You know, Chip Kelly's only 60.
But Jay Wright's not that old.
No.
But that's kind of the precipice of it, right? Here's a great coach, and Jay Wright, who didn't want anything to do with NIL, who wanted nothing to do how he viewed the game of basketball had nothing to do, his culture had nothing to do with NIL and how it was transitioning. And he left. And we look at him as this great coach and a respected figure. If Chip stays at Oregon, has that success, I think that's how we look at him as well.
Let's talk to our good friend from Husker 24/7, Mike Schaefer, who joins us now. Morning, Schaefer.
Morning, guys. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine. How was Vegas? How was the bank account?
Vegas was good. Day one, we were probably up a little bit on the day. Day two, definitely not up at all. Very, very, very down. But when you lose every sports bet you make over a 40-some-hour period, that's going to happen. When the dealer can run 6 cards to a 21, starting with a 2 showing, that'll happen. You're sitting on a 19 the first time and a 20 the second. It's just not going to be your day. So, Monday wasn't kind, but the trip overall was great.
That's a Vegas press conference from head coach Mike Schaefer. We're gonna get the. Hey, by the way, Schaefer, it's McMaster. It's great to talk to you again.
Hey, look at that! They allowed you back in the state.
I know. I mean, I can't believe it. I'm pretty sure there are a couple warrants out, but we've been able to duck the head and get on the radio. But
I figured you'd be wherever Justin Fields is and singing his praises.
Hey, top rope, nice. There was a little fall. Yeah,
that was a Randy Savage. What'd you say?
Do you want to say anything about the Vikings?
Man,
tell me how well they're playing this year?
What a head coach you guys got. What I would do, I not a joke. I'm not kidding you, Shave. I'd cut off my left pinky to have your coach as my head coach.
Well, I certainly hope Kevin O'Connell doesn't leave Minnesota for Chicago, but
he's the best coach in the league right now. I have nothing. Hey, you know me. I'm a respectful human. I have nothing but respectful things to say about you and your team and how great you guys are. The best team in the league right now, and I want to congratulate you on that, because there haven't been a lot of times for you to cheer, and now you
I knew
get
there was
to.
going to be a but. Good job.
No, I'm being as nice as I possibly can be right now.
Well, no, when I tell anyone about you, I always say, just a respectful human being. That's how I describe you.
Thank you. And I feel like the listeners here at 1620, after me spending the last 8 hours with Gary, couldn't agree more with that sentiment.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
What does your win by your favorite baseball team mean yesterday for tomorrow?
It prolongs the agony a little bit, but you never want your season to just end. So I'll take the extra 2 days, and maybe they get the opportunity for yet another postseason classic with the Yankees. I'm thinking through it. Cleveland has played the Yankees in more playoff series than any other team in my lifetime. I think they've won only 2 of the 6 times they've met. So wouldn't mind getting another crack there, but they got to get through the best pitcher in baseball. And, he had some choice words for the Cleveland fans on Sunday. So we'll see how the crowd responds in kind on Saturday in a must-win game, the biggest game that any of the Tigers have ever played in after blowing yesterday's game. I would say all the pressure is on Detroit.
Hey, last night in Kansas City, Blue Valley High School in Overland Park, really good team. There was a lot of attention on that game. There were a lot of college schools that were represented that are out of the Power 4, including Matt Rule and Rob Dvorak, in to see Dawson Merritt play last night in the Kansas City area. The importance of those two showing up, and where do we stand right now with somebody who committed to Alabama and then came to Nebraska, and it's kind of been quiet?
Yeah, I think Nebraska just has to give him enough confidence that they can play on a big stage. I think that's why he chose Alabama. Everything else pointed to Nebraska. His family wants him. Nebraska. I don't think that's like, wouldn't even call it an open secret. I think that's just out there. I think the Alabama coaches know that as well. And so they're spending probably more time trying to recruit the family than they are Dawson specifically. But the biggest thing I think Dawson wants is he wants to play on a big stage. And so, Nebraska has to prove they have to go beat teams like Indiana, which sounds weird. You're talking about a big stage, and I'm talking about Indiana football. But Nebraska has to go and win these kind of games, and then play with Ohio State, not lose 62-3 and have your quarterback run back onto the field after a visit to the hospital. I mean, so you need Nebraska to show up in a way that it really hasn't for most of Dawson Merritt's life, to give him a reason to think, okay, this is where I want to play. Because right now he has the opportunity to go to Alabama, and they lost to Vanderbilt, but they also went and beat Georgia. Every game Alabama plays is a big game. Every game Nebraska plays, the people in Nebraska is a big game, but nationally it hasn't been a big game or hasn't been a big game team in a long time. I think if they can make themselves part of the conversation at some point this year, Dawson Merritt will very, very, very entertain a flip. Like I said, I think his family wants him here. I think he has a great relationship with Nebraska staff. I just think he wants to play big-time football in Nebraska to prove that they're there. And right now, they're close. They're closer than they have been in a while, but they're not there. And if they can get there, I think they can get Dawson Merritt.
Mike, we'll go from a specific recruit question to, I guess, more of a macro question. Last year, we know that Matt Rule said he doesn't necessarily have a pitch for recruits, but the message was, hey, we're building something here. Hey, we're going to develop you. You could be the start of something successful. You can be a part of the foundation of bringing back Nebraska to where it once was. Now that this team has had early season success, now that they're 5-1 and the fruits of that labor are kind of coming to fruition, is there a change in their pitch a little bit? Is there a different thing that they're now selling to recruits? Is there hey, now look at the results we're getting very early on, or do you think that the message is still the same from a year ago?
I think a lot of it is about their culture, their process, the fact that these results have come, for them in year two, and then they're not shy about pointing out who their quarterback is. Because I think a lot of it is, we built this culture, we have this process, we trust our coaches, we have these, older players believing we're playing young guys. We got Carter Nelson and Ja'Cory Barney on the field. We got Vincent Schaefer and Willis McGahee, wreaking havoc as linebackers. We got other young guys that we're going to start deploying too. But, we got this quarterback. You might have heard of him. He's going to be here for at least a couple more years. Don't you want to be a part of that? Mm-hmm. I think a big part of what they're doing is they're selling the culture and what Matt Rule has kind of put together, and they're going to continue to sell that aspect while also pointing out they've got a lot of things that are trending in the right direction. Nebraska's going to continue to make their push, and they're going to continue to make their pitch, and I think that it's going to be well received.
I'm going to pose this question to you, and you can give me a position group, an aspect, a certain player, a particular coach. Fill in the blank. You can give me 3, 4, or less than 3. Nebraska wouldn't be 5-1 without blank.
Well, certainly Dylan Raiola, so I'll give you that one. But then I don't know if they're 5-1 without John Bullock right now. I think that how he has played has been fantastic for this defense. I don't think they're 5-1 without Tony White. And I don't know that they're 5-1 without guys like Ja'Cory Barney either. And he's, he doesn't have the most yardage, but you have to think about him in a way that they don't really have a lot of other guys right now on their roster. I think, we're talking about Dawson Merritt and the pitch to him, but I think the big thing is if you can go get a Michael Terry, you can flip a Corey Sims, you hold an Isaiah Mosey. They need more playmakers on offense. I think that's pretty evident. And for this offense to continue to grow and evolve, they want to go in that direction.
Mike, looking at now Indiana, you talk about the significance of this and of this game. If they win this game, is this in terms of getting recruits probably the biggest win that they'll have in terms of flipping these guys? You think that winning a game against Indiana on the road will do a lot in towards, getting these guys that they need to be the program they eventually want to be?
I think it'll help. I mean, I know that what they have moving forward after Indiana, you have opportunities against USC and Ohio State to get some name brand wins. So those could certainly help too. But you think about it, you go get a win against Indiana, who's currently undefeated. You go get a win on the road against Indiana, move yourself to 6 wins. So you've eliminated this bowl thing. You go get a win against Indiana, and they have some buzz about them, so it's a ranked win on top of it. Yeah, I think it's a huge deal. I don't think it'll be Nebraska's biggest win, by the end of the season. I think Nebraska's going to go beat Indiana, but I think they have a bigger pelt out there that they can go, attach to their wall too. And that's not, Tom Allen, that's not just disrespecting your former program here. Your former AD. It's nothing against Indiana. It's just that I think Nebraska has bigger and better results out there for it. I don't think we've seen this team at their best.
Yeah.
And that's what's fascinating as they're heading into the teeth of their schedule. I think there's another level that they can get to, and I'm kind of excited to see what that looks like.
Hey, what does it look like? Nebraska rolls into Bloomington a week from tomorrow, and their 2 corner spots are Tommy Hill, who is back, Sierra Wright, and then they have a slot corner in Marquise Buford, and then Gifford and Singleton are all on the field at the same time. What does that look like?
I mean, I think it allows them to match up a little bit better with teams like Indiana, Ohio State, USC, who want to move the ball through the air. I would like to see what Marquise Buford looks like as your nickelback, and then you have Wright and Hill as your 2 outside corners. Hill's status is going to be fascinating because not only does he need to get back, he has to show that he can play in the run of speed of a game. He has to show that he can handle a bunch of snaps and to be able to run constantly and turn and move on that foot. That's not an easy injury, and that's one that can linger. And so what you can get out of him, hopefully out of the bye week, is the guy moving forward. But more than that, you need him for the next 6 weeks, not just the Indiana game.
Mike, I want to talk to you about a guy who we haven't seen a lot of this season, but came into this year. I think we were expecting big things out of him, but then we hear he's going to have the red shirt, Malachi Coleman. So 2 questions here. With Malachi, do you expect to see him down the stretch? Do you think he could be in play to make some plays for this team as they take on their toughest part of the schedule? And secondly, is there any doubt, you think, in the future of him with the program after taking a red shirt this year, kind of unexpectedly doing so after playing last year as a freshman?
Well, he did get on the field a little bit against Rutgers. So it's not like he's completely disappeared. It's not like he's getting on a flight to San Francisco. So he's a guy that I don't know what to do with Malachi Coleman.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised that the red shirt is happening. I think he's a guy that can be a playmaker for you. But as we saw with someone that I was really high on in the summer, and it just really hasn't looked how I thought it was going to. And this isn't to discredit Jalen Lloyd by any means. I mean, he's out there. It's just the plays haven't resulted in quite what everybody wants, but it doesn't mean that they aren't going to keep trying it. Sometimes the progress isn't exactly as you think. I thought Jalen Lloyd was primed to take a big jump for Nebraska in 2024, and that hasn't happened. Malachi Coleman could make a big jump, but it could be in 2025.
Yeah.
Jalen Lloyd could make a big jump, and it could be in 2025. So I'm not ready to write anybody off yet. I think Malachi, if he continues to show up at practice and work and play as hard as I know he's able to, and continue to try to grow and become a better wide receiver, he's only going to be a bigger asset for Nebraska. I mean, we talk about wanting Michael Terry and all of these different players to help out. You've got guys in the program that can get better. You got guys in the program that can develop. I mean, that's what Matt Rule is his hallmark, is that he develops players. He gets them to the NFL. Malachi Coleman wants to play in the NFL. It starts with Malachi Coleman, doing everything he can do, and Nebraska doing everything it can do to make sure that he's the best version of himself. And so I think if you can start that process and it moves well, then there's no reason to believe that isn't happening right now. But if it continues to progress in that fashion, I think the sky's the limit for him. He's an incredibly talented player. And I don't know what exactly, if anything, is holding him back, but I hope to see it here. I would love to see it in the games he has remaining, and I hope to see it in 25 and beyond.
Hey, Schaefer, as always, we appreciate it. Welcome back. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you next week ahead of Indiana.
All right, guys. Take care, Matt. It was great talking to you again. Let's do this any forum you want. If you want to You just want a random phone call. I'm happy to verbally spar with you whenever you would like.
There's a reason why you don't have my number, Schaefer. Great talking to you, too.
That's Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7. Really, Justin Fields.
Man, I stood on a soapbox for that man for 4 years. I gave my heart, my soul, my head. I gave everything to him. It broke me. That whole situation has broke me almost to the point where I'm not as invested in Caleb Williams just because I'm just so disheveled.
See what the Cowboys have done to me? They're doing it to him.
That's just like, man, and don't get me wrong, I love my team and I love Caleb, but man, that whole field situation took a toll on me, and I'm glad he's having success in Pittsburgh. I seriously am.
Will he be starting this weekend?
He's a guy. Now here's a guy who is young. Like, he has the potential and ability and age to be the future of that franchise. Russ is really there just so he can put his name back in the conversation of being Canton. That's why he came there. And if they really thought that through practice he gave him the best shot to win games, despite the calf injury, they'd be like, oh, no brainer. All right, we got to get Russ out there. That hasn't been the case, though. We'll see, though.
Matt Verzal will join us next on Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Matt McMaster sitting in for Nick, who'll be back on Monday on 1620 The Zone. All right, so sing about the Red Box. I was reading a story about the Red Box yesterday. Do you know that there are 24,000 useless Red Boxes that are located around the country? Now, you might go to your favorite CVS or Walgreens, and they're right outside.
Use of the Red Box? Was it you got it from you got the movie from a vending machine?
Yep.
And then you put it back in the Red Box when you were done?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it was
returned
it was like a library for movies, but portable outside your local supermarket.
And McDonald's.
Yep. But so the machines weigh 900 pounds. So to get rid of them,
yeah.
And a lot of them are still hooked up to electricity. So it's sucking the electricity. The CVS bill is going up. But you got to hire somebody.
What are they doing? What are they doing?
You got to hire somebody to come and take it away.
Yeah.
It's 900 pounds. So that's why they're just, you'll say, go, hey, no, it's a non-working Red Box. And there are 24,000 of them across the country that are useless.
Were you a big Red Box fan in the back in the day?
I only did Red Box a couple of times.
This wasn't that long ago.
For a nice little.
So you gotta,
I don't know. I don't know the dates. I don't know what's going. I don't know from when to when.
They were probably when you were in high school.
No.
The Red Box?
That's
about the time. That's about the time.
That was 6 years ago. I was in high school 6 years ago.
Oh, God.
5 years ago.
Yeah. All right. Me and this guy were not, as we welcome in Matt Verzal. Good morning.
What's up, boys?
How you doing?
I'm good. Got to MC an event on Saturday. Got to raise a little money at Scott Catholic for Angel Flight. Unfortunately, I just read the great Pat Fisher has passed away, so much respect to the legend.
Yes. It's been a 1-2 punch because Pat Clare passed away. And then Pat Fisher. And I mean, they are the first family of football in this state. What a great family. How well, I know what your relationship is with the others. How well did you get to know Pat?
So we were, if you ever wonder why I am how I am, you're part from your parents and you're part from your coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Fisher was going to win his 200th game. And I believe we were in Norfolk or Columbus. And, we all kind of know Coach was not about hoopla and all that kind of stuff. And so we're playing and we whoop up on him pretty good. And Pat is there. And, we're celebrating with Coach and he walks out on the field. And Coach Fisher looks at him and he goes, "What the hell are you doing here?" Pat's like, "Well, you won your 200th game. It's kind of a big deal." And Coach is just kind of off put by. He goes, "You don't even live here." He goes, "You live in Washington. Why are you here?" And he's like, "I'm here to celebrate with you." And he's like, "Okay." And he just walked up, the field. But and then I got to, I was an NFL films guy. I loved NFL films. I would watch those things just endlessly. Well, they have the one with him and Harold Carmichael, the acorn and the oak tree. And it was just, so to see that guy there at that game was cool, and shook his hand and crazy nice and talked to him. And he was just awesome. But they all got that same broken nose. They all got that same perfectly coiffed hair. I mean, that parent group, man, that house had to be just a shambles with all the boys.
Yeah, what an incredible family. And I mean, Pat Fisher's career. Now, for people that don't know, Verse played for Kenny Fisher at Grand Island, and Kenny then would end up at Nebraska, and it always brought a smile to your face whenever you'd see him around the football program. But Pat Fisher played 17 years in the NFL. I mean, it's crazy. Mick Tingelhoff and Pat Fisher played 17 years and never missed a game.
And the thing with Pat was that was never supposed to be there, right? Was never, you're too small, you're too slow, you're not good enough, you're all these things. But just went and Hall of Fame career, like amazing. But they just, tell them they're not good enough and then get out of the way because they're going to show you they are. And it was cool. But that's kind of a bummer, but lived a great life, 84 years old, awesome guy. And so, hell of a man.
Hey, we've talked about this before, and I know you got an opinion, but we haven't done it for a while. High school football in Class A was another rough night last night where we had a 56-14 game. We had Millard South and Lincoln High. It was 63-0 at halftime, and Lincoln High didn't have enough players healthy to play the second half, so they did not play the second half last night. Last week we had a 69-0 game in Class A. Is there a fix that we're not talking about to try and bring Class A football closer together, or is this just too far down the road?
I think it's a couple things. I think, number one, this is what some of the powers that be wanted it to be. So this is what you've got. And you know, everything that happens that everybody wants to complain about is perfectly within the rules. Okay. OPS has chosen for it to be a free-for-all, and your major metropolis is going to take advantage of that. Lincoln is so far behind, and this is nothing to do with the coaches. Okay, nothing to do with the coaches, but the level above the coaches is just apathetically running it. Like it's the school board in Lincoln has crippled that to no avail, and it's embarrassing. If you want it back to normal, you got to go back to borders. You got to go back to you live here, you play here. You want to do that? Then fine. But what everybody's doing right now is perfectly within the rules.
It is.
They're doing their best, and there's some that are good at it, and some that want to be resistant to it. And if you're resistant to it, it's not going to go. It's not going to work. You have to accept it. I do think there's some things that coaching staffs can do as far as building, and now they're going to have to give up more of their time because you become a small college coach where you have to go build relationship with the junior high. And you have to get your junior high to almost be your feeder. You can't let some of those go around and build super teams in 5th, 6th, 7th grade. And those that don't, this is what it's going to be. You have to make sure that the mom and the dad and the kid all like you, because there's some out there that will come coach and they'll just come get your players. But it's a tough thing. It's not the best to see, because you want those games. Friday night is electric when the game is competitive. There's no better atmosphere in the world than a very competitive high school game, whatever that game is. It's a ton of fun. It's got basketball, does it? It's got volleyball. They're bringing some folks in from out of town to do it. But you got to have that juice, and you got to have that. And it all gets to OPS. Are you happy with this? Is this what your vision was? Okay, then lock them back down. You live here, you play here. If you don't, you want to move. And the NSAA is going to get put in a tough spot with that, because they're going to have to hire 17 more people to go around and check people's houses. Did you move? No. But they hide it under different guises, and they'll work the rules. There's some smart people that coach at some schools out there, but they'll work it all around.
Matt, I'm Matt McMaster. It's great meeting you. Pleasure talking to you. I got a couple questions for you. This offensive line kind of put together with duct tape right now, right? Teddy Prohaska out to begin the year. Turner Cork's got a hamstring, and then the whole Micah Mazuka situation with, relativeness to the fact that a lot of these guys weren't starting to begin the year. Have you been impressed with the depth of this offensive line so far? Have you been surprised with, the fact that, they're not beating up the world, but they definitely haven't taken a massive step back with a lot of these new faces?
No, because it shouldn't be an anomaly. It should be the expectation, right?
Yeah.
If I'm preparing as if I'm the starter, then I know I'm one play away all the time. I should be able to go in and nothing should drop off. Yeah. And so now, as you increase your talent on the lines and you get more freaks in there, now if I go in the talent or the product doesn't drop off, now I'm a freak too.
Yeah.
And so now if I keep working hard at practice, then I get more playing time. So that's that's kind of how I view it. This is my expectation of it. When somebody goes down, the next guy goes in. There should not be a drop off. But they've done a good job. They're not. At times when the play calls allow them to be dudes, they're dudes. At times when the play calls allow them to not be dudes, then they struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Explain that.
So there's a real thing where offensive coordinators, and for whatever reason, they don't understand it. Milt would always say, well, I can't say all of them, but Milt would always say, you got to get frothed up. Okay? You got to get into the flow of the game. You got to get into that attack mindset. All right? So as you're going and you're probing and you're finding what plays work, you look at those guys. There's a pep in their step, and they come back to the huddle. They're anxious. They're ready to go. They want to do it. They're feeling it. The run game is working. The quick pass game is working. Like, you can do those things, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, now we're going to chuck a 9, or we're going to throw a deep post, or we got to get deeper. Well, no, you don't. Let these guys be in it. Like, let them feel the reason that you're succeeding is this, not the God-given blessed arm of your awesome freshman quarterback, right? Let me get in this. Let me feel you're going to get benefits from this later, because we got to start throwing some body blows. Because if you let this 300-pound dude keep running at me all game, I have to retreat. He's got a 5-yard run at me. It's my odds of winning aren't as high, because my skill set may be a little bit more of a mauler, a little bit more of a masher. And they do run the ball well. Like early in the year, they were really running it well. And you could see the confidence on both sides of it was going, but we'll go, 3 yards, 4 yards, 9 route.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, come on, man. Just let us do our thing, please. Then later, when we softened you up and you've given the ball fake, now we can spin it. Safeties get antsy, backers get antsy. We did it on defense a couple times against Illinois when the tight end was just standing by himself.
Yep.
So we got to, there's times where I think the calls that get made don't allow the guys to get in the rhythm of the game.
I'm vibing with you. As always, appreciate the time. Missed you yesterday. Monty Kratzenstein and I stopped in over lunch yesterday at the place.
What time are you in?
We were in, what did we meet, about 12:15?
Yeah. We got these amazing new inventions that you can take everywhere with you that they're called cellular telephone.
Well, I was looking for you. I was looking for you in the back, but it was, you guys were busy, and I didn't see you. So that's fine. That's fine.
You shoot me a text like, hey, Verse, man, I love seeing Monty.
Yeah, Monty.
Western Nebraska.
Oh my gosh, we talked Kearney, Gothenburg, the whole 9 yards yesterday. Yeah.
Reach out, just be like AT&T. Reach out and touch somebody.
Oh, there you go. I will hook you up next time. Have a great weekend as always.
Young line.
As always, appreciate it, my man.
Yeah, boys.
That's Matt Verzal. A big Nebraska Greats event coming up on Tuesday night. Former Nebraska tight end is on the board.
Okay.
Nebraska Greats?
No.
Google it.
Put it on the list.
Yeah. I'm hosting a panel of the 3 power brokers in athletics in the state.
Oh, wow.
We will have Marcus Blossom, Adrian Dowell, and Troy Dannon all together out at
that's awesome.
The Nebraska Greats
So that's
banquet on Tuesday night.
UNO AD and
Yes.
Nebraska AD and then
Creighton.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
The 3 main power brokers.
Hell yeah. Absolutely.
Are you going to roast him like you did Marty?
No. No. We will not be doing that. We'll have a little more serious. The phrase raunchy will not be used. Someone sent me an email that was at a roast.
Yeah.
So Marty Cordero, the Storm Chasers, got roasted. I was the MC. I wasn't the main roaster.
Oh, okay.
And I got an email from somebody last week that said I was a little bit raunchy.
Wow. Can we put that like on the title? Like,
and he was like a little bit. I must have failed.
Welcome to. We'll just change the name of the show. Welcome to 1620 here with Handley and Raunchy Sharp in the morning.
Just rolls right off the top.
Rolls right off the top.
Now I was nice. I said, "Hey, thank you for attending, and thanks for the email." But I was like,
"What did you do? What did you say? What was raunchy?"
I was it was a roast.
Can you redo the routine? Can we just get the next 20 minutes?
No. I can't.
because then it's going to be
It's a
mornings
roast.
with
My dad's favorite comedy routine ever, I think, is
Abbott and Costello?
Nikki Glazer at
pretty much the same thing.
the Tom Brady roast. He loves that. Like I would literally walk back into the family room, home from work, and he will just be watching it. Like he's watched it so many times, and he just laughs his butt off every single time.
Laughter's good for the soul.
And it's just like
how's your mom feel about your dad
I
watching a
don't think
lot
she
of Nikki
cares.
Glazer?
They've been married for 30 years.
Oh, so
you know?
they're past that. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think she.
Okay.
I mean, yeah,
Sounds like a good family.
No, it's great. It's fun. She knows him. They know that the chit chat stuff is done.
What male comedian does she like to watch?
Sebastian Maniscalco.
Okay, seems to be around the age.
Yeah,
So your dad's going through a midlife crisis. Mom is like, I want to stay.
I am
at
not
this level.
opening up my home on this fill-in talk show whatsoever. This is not therapy hour with Gary Sharp.
Oh, it wasn't therapy. We're just getting.
It sounded like
we're
it.
getting to know you more.
Matt's going to look for an apartment in Omaha.
I don't know if it is therapy because I don't know what's going on behind the walls there. But I mean,
I'm an open book, Sharp. What you see is what you get.
I know. I've learned a lot in the last 2 days.
I know. We've spent way too much time together.
We're a married couple.
We're like I said, we're like Mad Dog and Russo, but like at the end of Mad Dog and Russo.
Mornings with Sharp and Son.
Yeah, after 7 hours of being together, it's like we went through their whole career in 7 hours, in 8 hours.
Uh-huh. Well, we are glad to have you. You got 18 more minutes left.
I am so happy to be.
So whatever
here.
you're going to steal from here, go ahead and steal it.
Is there a mug? I do need more mugs.
Like a zone mug?
You know what? I don't think we have
zone
mugs.
That's crazy.
We don't have a lot of chachis.
We have a stress ball. You want a stress ball? A little football?
I'll take a stress
We'll
ball.
get you a little football.
That and I always need pens.
We got
We
pens.
have pens.
I need pens and a stress ball. That's my contract because Lord knows I'm not getting paid for this. So pens, stress ball, and
We'll pay you
I don't know.
in ones.
You do get paid.
I don't know. I'm just making jokes.
In a wadded up ball.
Pens and a stress ball. And do you have like one of those sling back?
Oh, the old school like giveaways, like the mesh.
Yeah,
the real cheap backpack,
like they do at the summer camps.
You're asking for
I
a
would
bit
love
much
that.
now.
Now you got a little bit too far.
Yeah.
Once you went past the pens, then you were in uncharted waters.
You could have a lovely beverage from the great people at Cross Drain, friends of our show.
Yeah, grab one on your way out.
Okay.
Some Cornhead Lager.
Heck yeah.
Support our guys
Absolutely.
at Cross Drain.
Don't have to tell me twice to drink a beer.
We're back for some final thoughts after this on 1620 The Zone. All right, final segment of the week. Again, big thanks to Matt for sitting in. Nick will be back with us on Monday.
Thank you for having me. It's been
it has been our pleasure.
Absolute honor to be doing the show over these last 2 days, and really appreciate it.
We finished with Kellyanne. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Great, Kelly. Doing phenomenal.
Gary and Matt.
Yes.
Good. I'm glad everybody's good on a bye week Friday, getting healthy, getting ready for next week in Indiana. I do have a couple of questions. You guys have been posing some great questions back and forth the past couple of days. Really been enjoying it. But I have a specific question is our lack of running game identity a product of the O-line, of the running back coach, or Satterfield's play calling?
Kelly?
Ann?
Yeah.
Kellyanne? All the above. all the above. That's sorry, I feel like that's a non-answer for you, but I feel like the running game I feel like look, who do I pin it on more? I would say I pin it on more of the offensive line than I do necessarily the running backs, but I would say that just because I think that there's more talent in that running back room than there is currently talent on the offensive line. But I will say this, they are beat up to smithereens. They have lost a lot of their projected starters to begin the year. But I also do think too, like the reason why I say all of the above, do I think that Satterfield and EJ Barthel could get a little bit more creative in terms of how they're running the ball and the manner in which they're running the ball? Absolutely. If I had to just pin it on one in particularly, maybe a little bit more effort from the O-line, but I really do think that it's kind of the lack of run game identity is a sum of all parts.
I like it. Gary, do you agree?
Partially. I'm not supposed to admit it out loud that I agree with something that Matt said. I think it's a odd combination of talent on the offensive line, consistency on the offensive line, and the same with running backs.
Yes.
I think there are times where Nebraska becomes very predictable in their run game, whether it be what they're going to run or who's on the field when they're going to run a play. I think another problem that does not help the offensive line getting a consistent push series after series after series. Nebraska really doesn't have any running back right now that can gain yards after contact.
Yeah.
Emmett Johnson is the top running back on Nebraska's roster with yards after contact, and it's barely 4, not even 4. I mean, that's got to be better. They don't have an eraser at running back, so it's just a combination of from certain play calls to people they have in positions, and it adds up to it is series to series in running the football.
And I think that's maybe a little bit of what Rule talked about in his press conference. I can't remember which day it was where he talks about we need to make those explosive plays. I think he's keyed in on the fact that it's not happening.
They don't, like Gary said, they don't have an eraser. You don't have a superstar. You don't have a guy where it doesn't matter that you got clipped in the backfield.
They don't have a guy that can break away.
No.
Okay, they don't have that guy that can either break tackles or can and break away. They have to have, more than likely, they have to have plays designed in the running game instead of just, hey, hand the ball off to 21, and he's going to go make a play. And but that 21, I think his snaps will definitely increase as they have Purdue and Illinois starting in that second half. I think they will go up even more when you get to Indiana and Ohio State.
You look at any team who's had a major amount of success for a long period of time in this Big Ten Conference, there is a bell cow running back attached to him. There's a Blake Corum. There's a Monty Ball. There's a Melvin Gordon. There's a Jordan Howard. There is, there are just running backs that you can consistently give the ball to. And I love the word you said, eraser. They don't have that. And frankly, Gary, I think the biggest problem is that, I agree with you. I think Emmett Johnson will start to emerge as the number one back over Dowdell. I think that his slipperiness and his ability to make people miss will make him more of an asset as opposed to Dowdell's kind of tough running, put your shoulder down, run over a dude. But the problem is that I don't think Emmett Johnson is going to develop into that superstar. And so while we sit here and I'm very confident in the young man, and I think that he's a very good running back and a guy that can consistently be a part of this offense and a big player for this team for years to come, I don't think he's that bell cow running back. I don't think he's the long-term answer, and they're going to have to take some major strides in this offseason, either finding them in high school or finding them in the portal.
Yeah, only 5 runs of 15 yards or more combined in the running backs.
And now I will say this, though.
That you can't make a living that way
They
in
still-
today's current day of running backs.
I agree.
You know, I mean, there are a lot of running backs that maybe once a game or at least over 2 games will have 1, 2 15-plus yard runs. That's the problem. This is a well-known problem. Okay, it just kind of accentuates itself when you have a running back or a quarterback that is Dylan that doesn't run the ball, but is talented enough to go, hey, if he can do this in the pass game, what if we did this in the running game?
Sure.
But that's something in the next 6 weeks, and especially off a bye week and some self-scouting, and maybe so when Ramir's on the field, it's not predictable that's going to be a passing play compared to when Dowdell is out on the field. That's why they pay him the big bucks. That's why they're paying you the big bucks to sit in for the last 2 days.
I think the biggest thing with the running game, was that your thing that just went right over my head there?
No. I was, no.
It's not game-changing. Do I think it's a detriment to the team?
That's a good phrase.
It's not a detriment to the team. It's not to the point where it's like, oh my God, this team isn't winning games because they can't run the ball. They can have some spot success and set themselves up for 3rd and 2, for 3rd and 3 with their 3-4 yard runs. But it's not a transcendental part of the offense. And in this league, and with where this league is going, you need to have that.
Give me one game that will be an upset
this week. Kentucky. Kentucky plays Vanderbilt. I really liked how Kentucky looked against Georgia. I think this has been a team that's surprised a lot of people, that have been really competitive. I think Vanderbilt is riding very high. I think they're going to buy their own hype. They're going to listen to the noise too much, and I think they could get upset. I believe the points is 13.5 right now, plus 13.5
wild.
Kentucky.
Jimmy got a upset.
LSU beating Ole Miss. We talked about that earlier, about them being underdog at home. Yeah, it's not happening at Death Valley.
West Virginia wins tomorrow night against
That's a
Iowa
good
State.
one. Couches will burn.
Another unbeaten is off. Thank you very much. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. It's been a ton of fun.
Safe travels back home to Chicago.
Good luck in the marathon.
I'm not looking forward to it. I did not realize the marathon was this week. You ruined my weekend telling me it was.
Nick will be back on Monday. Thanks again, Matt. It's been a pleasure for Jimmy and myself and all of our listeners. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. Live, laugh, and punt. Make memories. Be safe. We'll talk to you again on Monday morning at 6 ahead of the Indiana